Hello to all fans of Naruto Lemon. I will post all Naruto Lemon Yaoi, Yuri, or Naruko Lemon stories only on the Boosty channel because Uncle YouTube condemns this. Therefore, I invite everyone who wants Naruto Lemon content to my Boosty channel. Good luck.
お前はどこまで見えている。俺の死に様か。
But I immediately interrupted him, not allowing him to carry on any nonsense. Read your books less, you'll be healthier, I said with a slight grin. How's the head? Does not hurt? I asked sarcastically. No. This is what I should ask you. Yesterday you drank the most, and I was the most sober of all, this scarecrow also said with a grin. I wanted to answer no less caustically, when I was interrupted by this pink-haired thing. What are you talking about? No, will she ever learn not to interfere in other people's conversations and not ask questions that do not concern her? It looks like I will have to hammer these simple rules into her so that the simple truth will finally dawn on her. I was already starting to get angry and was ready to unleash all my irritation on this pink-haired girl, but they didn't let me do it. Sakura, don't go where you shouldn't, otherwise you might get punished for it. Naruto Harem is not the type to tolerate such things. Remember this once and for all, Sasuke said, looking coldly at Haruno. But, she tried to say something, but immediately shut up, noticing the irritated looks on her. We would have stood there for a long time, but I noticed several people standing near the trees. Kakashi, I'll be right there, I said, and quickly walked towards them. While I was walking, I heard a conversation between Sakura, Sasuke, and Kakashi. Fortunately, with my hearing, this was not difficult, and when I approached the 4ANBU, I motioned for them to wait and began to listen. Kakashi-sensei, where did she go? We're having a training session. Haruno was indignant, turning to Hataki. Her friends came to see her. I don't know why, you don't even have to ask, Kakashi answered casually, not considering it necessary to explain anything more. Who are they? They are wearing some strange uniform, and there are masks on their faces, the girl asked a new question. She is nothing but problems, especially with her curiosity. Something needs to be done about this, otherwise it will fit in somewhere, and then we'll have to clean it up. This is ANBU, Konoha's elite squad, Kakashi explained. But he might not have said this, at least correctly. She needs to know about them, after all, perhaps in the future, if she becomes a first-class kunoichi and a strong ironin. She may end up in the ANBU. And where does she have such friends? She seems to be the same age as me and Sasuke-kun, the pink-haired girl asked again. What should we do with her? She was there for a couple of years, and then she left for personal reasons that you're not supposed to know about. And stop asking questions about Naruto Harem. If she deems it necessary, she will tell you herself. And I advise you, Kakashi-sensei, not to answer anymore. Especially about the ANBU and the personal reasons why she left. I don't want that. But it doesn't matter. You yourself understand what I'm talking about, Sasuke said. But for this I simply adore him, although he is still such an asshole. But all the same, I will thank him for this later by teaching him one very entertaining technique that Ida-kun taught me. I think he will be delighted with such a gift. Having finished eavesdropping, I turned my attention to the newcomers. They looked at me in bewilderment, not understanding what I was doing. Shrugging my shoulders, I explained. Never mind. I just overheard an interesting conversation. God, why did the Hokage give me this as a student? I asked rhetorically, not addressing anyone in particular. So why did you come? I switched directly to the desired topic. You said yesterday that you and Kakashi would have a training fight so that the Hokage would give you the title. Plus, you invited us to watch this, Yukiri said. I don't remember anything like that. Did I say something similar yesterday? Yes? Did I say that? I decided to ask those who came. They looked at each other and then looked at me. Yes, I don't remember saying anything about the fight. There's no point in looking at me like that. And this is not surprising. After Rem left the establishment, you drank heavily on alcohol, apparently to regain a good mood. And it was during this that you told about the training, and also invited us to watch. True, only the four of us were able to come, since we were not as drunk as the others and today we are not suffering from a hangover, said Kid. The others just nodded, agreeing with him. I sighed heavily and massaged my temples to relieve the sudden pain. That's how much I drank yesterday to forget such information. And that's the only thing I forgot. I remember the rest perfectly. It's somehow strange. Oh well, I won't bother myself with this, otherwise I'll get sick again. I still don't remember. Well, okay, since you came, then look. Then somehow we'll arrange a training session with you, she said and grinned. They nodded their heads energetically. Yukiri was especially zealous. In general, these four are the most emotional in ANBU. Emotions are hidden only on missions, but in normal times and during training, they are very cheerful. That is great. Then after finishing training, we go shopping. Together. Yukiri cheerfully proclaimed, clapping her hands like a little child. The word shopping made everyone turn pale, including me. Knowing her love for shopping, we are doomed to torment. She won't let us go until each person's bags exceed 15. And most likely by everyone she meant not only us, but also Kakashi, Sasuke, and Sakura. Oh, and I don't envy them. Maybe not? I asked with hope in my voice, and to make it even more convincing, I rolled my eyes and began wagging my tail from side to side. Your trick won't work on me. The immune system has developed. So we go shopping and this is not discussed. Let's take Sasuke-chan and Kakashi and that pink-haired girl, said this eternal positive. I have never seen her sad or upset, at least while I have known her. Okay, I persuaded you. I have to go, otherwise Haruno will start squealing, and I really don't want to listen to her whining now, I said and, turning around, went to the team that was waiting for me. We need to finish this quickly so we can quickly get rid of Yukiri. Kakashi, I have very bad news, I began, making a dejected face, although I didn't need it, I already had one. Something happened? Asked the ash-haired one, looking at me worriedly and throwing the same glances towards the ANBU. I sighed and raised my head, looking into Hataki's face. Yes, it happened. After training, Yukiri and I go shopping. It didn't work out, I said. Kakashi's face immediately turned pale, although this is not visible behind the mask, but when you know him very well, you can easily notice the change in his emotions and facial expression. Nothing can be done. Okay, let's start training, Kakashi said, and after a minute pause, he continued, first, I'll check Sasuke and Sakura, and then we'll have our fight. Fine. I think it will be easier this way, I agreed with Kakashi's proposal. And it wouldn't hurt me to see what Sasuke is capable of. After all, he trained throughout our entire journey and very rarely took part in battles. And it wouldn't hurt to look at Sakura's abilities. Your task is to take away this bell from me, Hataki began to explain, taking out one bell and hanging it on his belt. Actually, there are 2 of them for 3 genin, but since the team consists of 2 genin, 1 bell is needed. But, sensei, he's only 1. Sakura exclaimed, looking at the bell. Oh, it will be too much trouble with her. Well, they made friends. That's right, Sakura. Anyone who does not get the bell will go back to the academy. You can use anything. You must want to kill me to take it away. You are given 2 hours. And now, after a short pause, he continued, let's begin. After that, both disappeared from sight, hiding in the forest. You play, and I'll sit on the sidelines and watch. Without waiting for an answer, I retreated into the shade from the scorching sun. When I positioned myself at the observation site, I began to scan the area. Sasuke hid in the leaves of a tree and hid his chakra quite well. Shinobi of the level of a weak chunin or genin will not detect it, but shinobi of the level of a jonin, like Kakashi, will be able to detect it if they are sensors. But Sakura hid in the bushes and didn't even bother to hide her chakra. Of course, it was not enough initially, but it still feels good. Kakashi took out his favorite book from his pouch, which he read through. Apparently, he has already discovered his charges, but has not taken any action towards them. Apparently he is waiting for action on their part. Nothing happened for 5 minutes, but then I noticed how Sakura began to move around the forest. Hatake noticed this immediately, so he followed her. Wow, he used the illusion of an injured Sasuke and it surprisingly worked. Haruno, seeing her idol in a deplorable state, fainted. Somehow she got caught quickly. I couldn't even distinguish reality from illusion. Too weak. It needs to be taught from scratch, which is problematic. And how did she manage to become a genin with such a level? It may be good in theory, but in practice. Okay, I won't be distracted by her. Then I'll decide what to do with it. Now we need to switch to Sasuke. Not bad at all. He distracted Kakashi with a throwing weapon and, leaving the clone in his place, went to wake up Sakura. So he understood the essence of this test? Not bad, not bad. A little more and he will become almost equal in strength to his brother. This will take about 2 to 3 years. So, he came up with something and, having explained his plan to Sakura, set about executing it. The throwing weapon came first, followed by several clones that forced Kakashi into close combat. A couple of minutes later, a fireball technique rushed towards Hataka, followed by a lightning elemental technique. Commendable. The fire technique destroyed the remaining clones, thereby creating a curtain of smoke. Kakashi didn't see the lightning, so it must hit him, thereby paralyzing him. But this will happen if he does not use his Sharingan. But because of the curtain nothing can be seen, so I can only wait. A few minutes later, the smoke completely disappeared, and a paralyzed Hatake appeared before my eyes. So he didn't use his trump card? Decided to leave it for later? Most likely this will happen, and this will happen later during our battle. Okay, stop. Do I seem to have missed something? When did Sakura get there? And what's that? Bell? When did she manage to get it? When you? Kakashi asked, surprised that they were able to cut the bell without him even noticing it. When my clones entered into close combat with you, one of them quietly used a lightning blade, cutting off the bell, and then they began to push you towards the forest so that you would not notice it. When the smoke screen appeared, Sakura quickly took the bell and retreated. I honestly thought that you would not fall for such a primitive trap and that you would dodge the lightning, and then I would use plan B, but this did not happen. When the curtain disappeared, Sakura appeared next to me and showed me your bell, Sasuke explained. And the plan is really good. I could even come up with a second one, due to the failure of the first one. Of course, he is very, very far from the Nara clan, but as a strategist he showed good results. Sasuke, Sakura, you guys are great, good plan. Now, Sasuke, what are you going to do with him? Kakashi asked, looking at the Uchiha. He answered without thinking. I'll give it to Sakura. The academy still doesn't threaten me. I already have a personal teacher. So anyway, I will become a genin if I pass the exam. But Sakura can get into the academy again, so I'll give it to her, said the Uchiha and handed the bell to Haruno. She was confused, judging by her look, but refused the bell. Strange. No, Sasuke-kun, take it for yourself. And I'll spend another year at the academy, said the pink-haired girl. But she pretty much surprised me with this. Have your brains turned on? By the way, we need to intervene. No one will go to any academy. You both passed, I said, approaching the genin and Kakashi. Like this? Sakura asked, blinking her eyes in surprise. Looks like I jumped to conclusions. The test was for teamwork. If Sasuke hadn't included you in his plan, you would have failed and actually went back to the academy. And you Sasuke too, despite the fact that you were genin. And since you both worked as a team, you passed the test and will begin the task tomorrow, I explained the purpose of the test, deciding to remove Kakashi from this activity. Can I ask a question? Sakura asked hesitantly. I looked at her and nodded easily, giving my consent. Why do we only have 2 genin? Shouldn't a team have 3 genin and 1 jonin mentor? Well, everything is simple here. Our team is a little unusual. Apparently, Kakashi and I must prepare you well for the Chunin exam, and after it, our team will not disband, like the majority, but will remain the same. We will perform special tasks. Kakashi is an elite jounin, I am a Sannin and a Fuin master, Sasuke is the last of the Uchiha clan, and you, Sakura, can become a good ironin in the future, judging by your potential, I said, but noticing that Haruno wants to ask a question, I abruptly interrupt. Sakura, you have a small reserve of chakra, which is very easy to control. You won't be able to handle energy-consuming techniques. The only way for you is to become a medical ninja. And if you try, you can become like Tsunade-sama. You have physical strength, but you cannot use it correctly. I will teach you the basics that I know myself, but no more, since my chakra is not intended for healing. And then, I will find Tsunade-sama and ask her to train you. Just please, get all the pink garbage out of your head. I told you about this during our journey. If this continues, you will never become a strong kunoichi, and you will be a hindrance to the team. Is everything clear to you? I asked, to which I received a nod in agreement. That's good. Kakashi, let's get started? I asked, turning to Hataka. Sasuke immediately pulled Sakura away as soon as he heard my words. And my sensitive ears caught the words of Yukiri, it's finally starting. I grinned and jumped away from Kakashi a fairly short distance and took a stance, preparing for our battle. The copier also stood up from his stance and, placing his hand on the protector, raised it, showing his Sharingan. Agree. Then we begin training for promotion, he said. I chuckled at this statement. I have a feeling it will be fun. We haven't trained like this for a long time. I hope I can not give away all my secrets regarding my current strength. Danzo and the Hokage don't need to know my level yet, because the whole plan will go down the drain. Well, now, I shouldn't be distracted from the fight, otherwise it could end up sideways. Let's start. I woke up from an amazingly delicious smell that came from the kitchen, filling the entire house. The mood was amazing, and nothing could spoil it on this wonderful day. Looking out the window, I saw snowflakes falling and a happy smile spread on my face. There is almost no snow in Konoha, and the weather outside is relatively warm. But for some reason unknown to us, only one day does the snow fall on the ground in a thick layer, forming snowdrifts. These days, all the children run out into the streets and start frolicking, playing various kinds of entertainment related to snowballs. Adults also emerge from their homes and succumb to the joyful mood. And today is just such a day. The day when everyone prepares delicious and varied dishes, decorates houses and counters, puts up a Christmas tree and dresses up. They run around shopping for gifts for their family and loved ones, and when everything is ready and the table is set, everyone begins to dress up and preen themselves in order to be irresistible on this day. And at midnight, the holiday itself begins. New Year, which marks the beginning of new events, a new life. On this day, everything is filled with happiness and joy. On this day there are no tasks, any training, or work. This day is reserved only for celebrating with loved ones. I allowed myself to lie in my warm bed for a while, enjoying the calm morning and the delicious smell of breakfast. After all, these are those minutes of the morning when you can lie quietly and not think about anything, because then the running around, bustle and preparations for the holiday will begin. Oh, I don't know how long I would have lain like this, but the door to the room opened, and 2 whirlwinds, red and black, rushed inside. The bed next to me sagged, and these 2 whirlwinds fell on me, smiling happily. I couldn't resist hugging them and laughing joyfully, starting to tickle them, and the room filled with the ringing laughter of children. After 10 minutes of unbridled fun, we collapsed on the bed and began to breathe heavily, calming down from laughter. Mom, Dad asked me to wake you up and tell you that breakfast is ready. And Uncle should come soon. So get up, Mom, said the black-haired girl. I twitched my ears when I heard the word uncle, and my tail began to happily dart about the bed. I immediately jumped out of bed and began rushing around the room, looking for suitable clothes to meet my brother. Then why are we lying here, huh? Come on, get up and run to wash your face and go to the kitchen. I'll be there soon, I said, running out of the room, heading to the bathroom to take a shower and clean myself up. I completely forgot that Nissan is returning from a long mission today, and this is not at all the case. Still, I haven't seen him for a long time and I really miss him. After spending an hour in the bathroom, I came out of the shower ready and cheerful. Entering the kitchen, I walked up to a man standing near the stove and lightly kissed him on the cheek. The children were already sitting at the table and happily swinging their legs. There were sparkles hidden in their eyes that did not bode well for us. Good morning, Shirkuan, I said, sitting down at the table. They put a plate in front of me with my favorite ramen, although I eat it very rarely, since it is unhealthy, but on such holidays, I can afford my favorite dish. Especially if it is prepared by my beloved husband. Good day, little fox, said the brunette, putting 3 more plates on the table. Kurama hasn't woken up yet? He asked, smiling his charming smile. I started devouring the ramen, answering the question along the way. No, you know that this fox likes to sleep soundly, I said. The children quickly finished their portion and began to look at us carefully and listen. And if I take out a large piece of meat, how long do you think it will take for him to come running to the kitchen? Asked Shirkuan, in whose voice one could hear barely restrained laughter. Let me think. Probably, after a minute or 2, I said, finishing my portion. Shisui flashed his eyes cheerfully, and then looked at the quiet children. Akira, Ichiro, do you want to wake up Kurama? Shisui asked, to which he received joyful smiles and nods. Then take the largest piece of meat in the refrigerator and put it in a bowl, and in a couple of minutes he will come running, said the beloved husband, but that the children jumped from their seats and began to carry out their father's instructions. I looked at him with a questioning look, to which he responded only with a mysterious smile. On the one hand, this performance will be fun to watch, but on the other hand, I feel sorry for Ku. After all, Akira and Ichiro won't stop and start squeezing him. Okay, I think it's possible today, and Ku won't mind. It seems so to me. Shirkuan, what time will Alex come? I turned to him, looking at the children's actions. Somewhere in half an hour, maybe earlier, he said, and then a roar was heard, along with a knock on the door. A fox with 2 tails and burning eyes appeared on the threshold of the kitchen, and saliva was almost dripping from its mouth. Seeing the desired meat, he quickly found himself near the bowl and began to quickly consume his breakfast. There was a knock on the door again and I hurried into the hallway. Having opened the door, I immediately joyfully threw myself on the neck of a tall man, who smiled and spread his arms to the sides, inviting me into his embrace. I immediately followed suit. He caught me and spun me around, smiling. Shisui appeared at the door, also smiling, looking at us. Long time no see, Alex. How did the task go? Sure asked when they put me on the ground. The brother shook the brunette's hand, answering the question asked. Really a long time ago. It seems like I was away from the village for 6 months. Alex said, asking a rhetorical question. The task was successful and Hokage-sama gave me a month's leave, he said, walking into the house and heading to the kitchen, where laughter and soft cursing and whining could be heard. Akira, Ichiro, are you bothering Kurama again? Asked the brother, turning to the children. They turned around at his voice and immediately rushed at his neck, knocking him to the floor. Uncle is back. They shouted together, hugging Alex and lying on the floor. He patted them on the head, disheveled their hair, and easily rose to his feet and placed the restless children on the floor. Uncle, shall we go outside? Ichiro asked, looking slyly at his brother. He raised his eyebrow in a questioning gesture, and then asked. For what? Why is this so? Let's play in the snow. Akira said, starting to pull him towards the exit. Let him eat first, and then go play, I said, not allowing them to run out of the kitchen. But Mom. Please. They said together. Children almost always talk together, they are twins after all. Neither the Uchiha genes in the area of stone faces, nor my genes, showed up. Here the genes of my mother and their grandmother quickly showed up. Fully Uzumaki. Just as cheerful, eccentric and mischievous, as well as explosive. Sometimes they are very difficult to deal with, but impossible. No buts. My uncle recently returned from a mission, and was very tired and also hungry. You'll go outside in 2 hours. Now go to your room and clean up. I'll come back in an hour and a half and check, I said, looking sternly at the children. They, with their heads down, went to their room to complete the assigned task. Shisui and Alex are already sitting at the table and talking about something, not paying attention to our conversation. She went to the stove and poured 2 portions of ramen, and also brewed jasmine tea, and placed one plate in front of her brother and the other in front of herself. Aren't you too strict with them? Brother asked when he finished eating ramen. No. They are very energetic, like my mother. Therefore, you need to be strict with them so that they do not become arrogant and proud, if you are gentle with them and forgive everything. And also give what they ask. Mom did not become like this because she grew up alone, and the villagers were not very good towards her. But Akira and Ichiro have us, and besides, we are not ordinary people and not even ordinary shinobi. I am a heroine, soon to become Hokage. Shisui is the head of the police in Konoha and the captain of the ANBU squad. Anyone else in their place has already become proud, treat them differently. But we don't want that, so we're raising them to be worthy future shinobi, I said after finishing eating the noodles. Having poured tea with jasmine into mugs, we began to drink it with goodies, talking about Alex's completed mission and other things. An hour and a half later, Shisui went to look at the work done, and we were left alone in the kitchen. Will you stay with us for the new year? I asked, looking at my brother. Probably no. Besides, you'll probably be celebrating with your family, I'll be superfluous, he said, lowering his head. You will not. You are part of our family, so don't even think that you will be the odd one out. Itachi, Sasuke, Tsunade-san, Jiraiya, Yukiri, Kakashi, Sakura, and some of our friends will be celebrating with us. So stay, I said, smiling. Alex looked at my face and smiled too. Okay, I persuaded you, he agreed. That is great. I said cheerfully, clapping my hands. Alex wanted to say something, but he was interrupted by the children running into the kitchen. I looked at them reproachfully, to which they lowered their heads and began to shuffle their feet. Mom, can I go with my uncle and play in the snow? They asked at the same time and looked at me pleadingly. Have you cleaned the room? I asked, sighing heavily. I can't refuse them when they look at me like that. Although I am strict with them, I am still condescending, especially when they look at me like that. Yes. Dad has already checked and he can confirm it. So what? Can? They answered in unison and made an even more touching face. What to do with them? They won't give up so easily and will still achieve their goal. So I decided to let them go for a walk. And Alex will look after them while Shisui and I are not at home. Okay, go get dressed. And hurry up, otherwise Uncle Alex won't wait, I said and smiled. Akira and Ichiro pounced on me with hugs and kissed me on both cheeks before rushing upstairs to their rooms. Alex, would you mind sitting with them? Shisui asked, sitting down on the chair next to me. Of course not. Besides, I missed them, after all, I was gone for a long time, he smiled and got up from the table and headed into the hallway. The twins were already standing there, dressed and ready to go for a walk. The brother quickly put on his outerwear and opened the door, going out into the street. Mom, Dad, we're gone. They shouted and ran out after their brother. Well? Shall we go get ready and go shopping? Sure asked, hugging me from behind and placing his chin on the top of my head. Yes. Let's go, otherwise we won't have time to prepare anything, I said and, freeing myself from the hug, headed upstairs to our room. It didn't take us long to get ready, putting on the first things we came across. An hour later we were walking along a busy street, where there were a lot of people and everyone was in a hurry to buy everything they needed, which is why a crowd formed. But this mainly concerned civilians, but all shinobi got to shops and benches along roofs and trees. We did the same. After all, if we make our way through the crowd like everyone else, we simply won't have time to do anything before the guests arrive. We got to the grocery store relatively quickly, although there was a crowd of people there. Having chosen the necessary products to prepare the planned dishes, we began to wait in line at the checkout. We stood like that for quite a long time, an hour or two, I can't say for sure. When it was finally our turn, we quickly went through everything and, having paid, sealed the products in special scrolls so that they would not occupy our hands. The next point was another grocery store, because this one didn't have everything on the list. So we had to make our way through the crowd again, because even on the roofs and trees there were a lot of shinobi people. To be honest, I have never seen so many people, especially shinobi. Even last New Year's holidays there weren't so many. Although perhaps this is due to the fact that Tsunade-san gave everyone a day off? Anything can happen. All the shopping took 3 hours. Fortunately, we bought the gifts earlier, which couldn't help but make us happy. The kids are still out and about, so we have time to get everything ready in peace and quiet. I hope that we will be in time. It's already lunchtime, and the guests will start arriving at 10 in the evening. Shisui helped me, even though I said that I could handle it myself, but this argument did not help, so we poured over the festive table together. Do you think Ram will come? Shisui suddenly asked, which made me flinch and look at my husband. Don't think. We can't stand each other, so she won't come to our party, I said, returning to cutting vegetables. But then I looked at the Uchiha again. Why did you suddenly remember about her? I squinted, and my tail wagged nervously, and my ears twitched. Well, she trained you before. So I thought that maybe you invited her. I just needed to know whether to separate you or not. And approximately how much our house will suffer from your skirmish if it suddenly appears, said Shirkuan, without being distracted from his work. Here's another. I'm going to invite this litter, I said irritably, frowning. The tail began to wag completely, showing all my indignation. Come on, don't be angry. That's what I said, just in case. Shisui came up to me and hugged me from behind, pressing me to his chest, beginning to calm me down. Probably only he is able to neutralize my irritation, which can subsequently grow into anger. After standing like that for a few more minutes, I finally calmed down, and we continued cooking. A few hours later everything was ready. Having set the table, I called the children home, as well as Alex. After sending the twins to the room to get dressed in the things we had prepared in advance, and my brother home to change, Shisui and I went to the room to change too. I wore a knee-length blue kimono with a snowflake pattern. The belt was blue with white and blue trim. I pulled my long hair that reached my knees into a complex and at the same time simple hairstyle. I didn't wear any makeup, just painted my lips with a pale beige gloss. Shisui put on the standard kimono of the Uchiha clan, which was strict, but no less beautiful. The time was already 21:30, which means that the guests will soon be arriving. And so it happened. 10 minutes later the doorbell rang. Shisui hurried to open it, and I finished the finishing touches, namely, setting out the champagne and sake. A couple of minutes later, the husband came into the living room, followed by Itachi and Sasuke. The children are playing at full speed near the Christmas tree, not paying attention to the guests who have come. Happy New Year, Naruto Harem. Sasuke said, hugging me, and then holding out a box wrapped in gift wrapping. With coming. Itachi said. He also handed me a box with a bow, and then hugged me. Sure already had 2 boxes in her hands, which they had already unwrapped. One of the boxes contained a skillfully made dagger that is capable of channeling any element of chakra. This was most likely given by Itachi, but Sasuke's gift was also very unusual. It was a hot springs ticket for 2 that was fully redeemed. Sasuke gave me a cute kitten, which I was delighted with. Itachi gave me new gloves for my Rasen Shuriken technique, because the old ones had completely fallen into disrepair. I was delighted with this too. Thank you very much. Happy New Year to you too, I said, and gave them gifts from me and Shisui, which they decided to open later when they came home. Hey, guys! Come here! Sasuke called the children. They were distracted from the exciting activity and ran up to the Uchihas. It is for you. With coming, Itachi said and smiled slightly. Sasuke smiled too, handing them a gift. Akira and Ichiro began to unwrap the boxes, and then enthusiastically rushed at the Uchiha's neck. Itachi gave them a set of throwing training weapons, but Sasuke gave Akira a ribbon that can pass chakra, and Ichiro gave them a belt on which pouches are attached and also carries chakra, with which the belt can be expanded. Yes, and there are seals there. In general, the children were satisfied with their gifts and went to their previous place, near the Christmas tree. Soon other guests arrived. We didn't have time to look at all their gifts, so we put them all in one room, not forgetting to note which gift was whose. Exactly at 22:30 we sat down at the table and began to say goodbye to the old year. And then, when it was midnight, we began to celebrate the new year. It was a lot of fun. We sang, danced, and organized various competitions. At 2 o'clock, Shisui and I put the children to bed, and we and the guests went to the New Year's festival, where there will be a grand fireworks display. It was so fun and joyful that we all forgot about current problems and what would happen tomorrow. After all, this holiday unites us all with smiles and cheerful laughter of fun. We returned home in the early morning, around 7 o'clock. All we had to do was crawl to the room, undress, and fall onto the bed. Having said good night, or rather in the morning, only to be woken up 3 hours later by the twins demanding training. This night was unforgettable, because I celebrated the new year with my closest and dearest people. And there will be many such holidays. After all, what can you do for the cheerful smiles of your children, husband, brother, and friends? Let's begin, I said and immediately rushed towards Kakashi, forcing melee. With each blow, our speed increased and increased so that ordinary eyes could not follow us. Sasuke probably activated the Sharingan, memorizing our connections so that he could begin to practice them later. This went on for about 10 minutes. We both got tired of this and we jumped away from each other, while sending kunai at the enemy, which collided, ricocheted, and flew in completely different directions. I created one clone and ordered him to go into the forest to collect natural chakra. I myself began to quickly fold seals for my combined technique, which I created during my travels, but had never used yet. Even on missions. Fire release, wind, dragon flame. After which an incredibly powerful flame burst out of my mouth and rushed towards Kakashi. Without waiting for him to deal with the technique and counterattack, I began to make new seals. Lightning release, electromagnetic wolf. Following the flame, a wolf woven from lightning appeared. Kakashi didn't waste any time, so he had already made the necessary seals to extinguish my flame. But, alas, nothing will work out for him. To do this, he needs to combine the elements of water and lightning, but he does not know such techniques. Water release, giant wall of water. Kakashi said, and a wall of water appeared in front of him. She extinguished only part of the flame, thereby making it weaker, and he made a replacement from the second part. The wolf rushed to where he appeared. Hatake did not have time to dodge, and he did not have the element of wind, so he left again, using a replacement. Fire release, fireball. A voice sounded behind me. I don't want to show off the water, which I recently acquired, and I didn't have time to create the technique, so I took out a special 3-bladed kunai and, throwing it to the side, instantly moved. My father's technique was as if a ghost had flown by. It did not leave any special effects of thunder, and there was no yellow color or even red. That's why they nicknamed me Ghost Fox when I was still serving in the ANBU. The fire flew a few more meters and dissipated, and my clone also dissipated with it, transferring the accumulated natural chakra to me. A bright black rim appeared around my eyes, the pupil became animal-like, and the antennae became wider and clearly visible. The fangs lengthened and the claws became sharper. Now I look like a fox more than ever. As I said, I will only show old techniques and a couple of new elemental techniques. And the Sannin mode. They don't need to know about the Bija regime, nor do they need to know that I have a fourth element. They don't need to know that my arsenal of elemental techniques has expanded significantly, as well as conventional techniques, and they also don't need to know that my skill in fwine has improved, thanks to which I can become the head of the clan. Let them know that I learned several new seals. They have no need to know about the ones developed by me personally. Sannin's regime? Kakashi asked, to which I just grinned. Exactly, Kakashi-san, I said, and, having scattered kunai for the flight of the Thunder God throughout the training ground, I began to carry out my plan. Moving from kunai to kunai, I methodically delivered strong blows using the fox style of fighting. Hatake did not have time to repel most of the blows, which is why he received many scratches, abrasions, and bruises. In response to his attempts to attack, I dodged, arched, and made cunning approaches. Having delivered the last blows, I jumped back and my slightly changed appearance became the same, which meant that the hermit mode had dried up. But in principle, I don't need more, since I managed to put an immobilization seal on him, all that remains is to activate it. Having folded 3 seals, I said, Fuinjutsu, immobilization seal. After the words were spoken, Kakashi stood rooted to the spot, not daring to lift a finger. That's all. Victory. I didn't even use a katana or a fan, although there is nothing special in kenjutsu, not counting the new learned styles, or rather the style. Fox style, which is suitable for fighting with katana and fans. But he wasn't needed. Well done, Naruto. Well done. Now be so kind as to take this seal off me, Kakashi said, and I hastened to remove the fuin. Sasuke and Sakura ran up to us. Something changed in Sakura's gaze, most likely she began to take me more seriously after seeing my fight. If you knew my true strength and that I didn't use more than half of my arsenal, you wouldn't look at me the same way. Anyway. We'll deal with it later. Oh, Naruto Harem. I haven't watched such a beautiful fight for a long time. Sasuke said with admiration. Oh, you won't show that much when you finally finish your training and gain experience. So you have nothing to admire, your brother and Chur fought much more beautifully and better than me. Don't, Sasuke, I had just said this when Yukiri and the guys appeared next to us. The fight is just great. Now we're going shopping. Let's go, everyone, and this is not discussed. Yukiri immediately stopped all attempts, she would be indignant, so we had no choice but to sigh sadly and follow the girl. We searched all the stores with clothes, shoes, accessories, and even weapons for shinobi and grocery stores. Thanks to Yukiri, our wallets became significantly thinner, and our hands began to ache from the abundance of bags and packages. It was already late evening. We were all terribly tired, so we decided to go home. We agreed with the team to meet tomorrow near the Hokage residence at 12 o'clock to find out the results of the check and also take on the mission. We decided on this. Arriving home, we dumped all the bags in one place, created clones, and, ordering them to sort out the purchases, went to the kitchen. After heating up the food that was left over from breakfast, we had dinner. Having finished our meal, we went to our rooms. I didn't bother going to the shower because my legs no longer obeyed me. I fell onto the bed and fell asleep in my clothes. The next day we got up at the same time at 9 o'clock, which was strange. Usually, Sasuke will be with me, but here we got up together at the same time. Although, most likely this is due to yesterday's fatigue. Still, it was a test, and we had been shopping for who knows how long, so he woke up later than usual. I actually got up earlier. I usually wake up at 10 o'clock, and that's at least if the Uchiha doesn't wake up. Having quickly cleaned myself up and put on clean clothes, I went down to the first floor and followed to the kitchen, where pancakes and delicious-smelling tea were already on the table. And when did he have time to prepare all this? Why was I in the bathroom for so long? You're taking too long to get yourself in order, Naruto Harem. So I managed to cook pancakes, he said, sitting down in his place. Can he read minds? It's written all over your face, Sasuke said, starting to eat breakfast. Ah, now everything is clear to me. Without thinking twice, I also sat down at the table and started eating delicious pancakes. Having quickly had breakfast, we put the dishes in the sink and quickly ran out of the house, not forgetting to close the door behind us. We were very late, since the clock was 11:50, in other words, we had 10 minutes left before the meeting. So we rushed to make it in time. Although, knowing Kakashi, he could have taken his time at all. But I thought and decided that we would start without him, and he would catch up there. After all, I am also a team mentor. In this regard, Sakura and Sasuke were lucky. I don't know what would have happened if only Hatake had been their mentor. We arrived exactly at 12 o'clock. After greeting Sakura, we went to the Hokage to hear the verdict. Aren't we going to wait for Kakashi-sensei? Sakura asked when we had already entered the residence and were climbing the stairs to the floor we needed. We'll start without him. He will still appear in 2 hours, and that's at least. When he comes, then we'll tell him everything, I answered. At that moment we were already standing near the door. After knocking and waiting for come in, I opened the door and let the guys go ahead, followed, closing the door behind me. Oh, Hokage-sama, I said and began to wait for his decision. We didn't have to wait long. About 5 minutes later, he looked up from his papers and looked at us and said, Oh. To begin with, I'll say that team number 7 starts carrying out missions from today, the old man said and, lighting his pipe, continued. Now directly to Sasuke and Naruto. First of all, Uchiha Sasuke, here is your shinobi headband. From today, you are officially a genin. Thank you, Hokage-sama, the brunette said, accepting the protector and tying it on his forehead. Secondly, Uzumaki Naruto, here is your jounin vest. You don't have to wear it if you want, Sarutobi said. I silently walked over and accepted the green vest, nodding in gratitude. Thirdly, your first D-rank mission is to catch the daimyo's wife's runaway cat. Free. Hi. After which we left the office and ran into Kakashi in the doorway. You're late, Kakashi-san. Our task is to catch the runaway cat. So, go ahead and sing, I said and, turning the blonde one around, began to push him towards the exit. They caught this cat long and hard. In the end, Sakura caught her, but the price for this was the girl's scratched face, disheveled hair and torn dress. Sasuke remained intact, as did Kakashi and I, since we didn't really participate in this. As soon as we gave the cat meat to the daimyo's wife and received payment, we headed to the training ground. Since Hatake won't care about training, that means I'll do it and Kakashi won't read his books while she's there, so I'll watch this very carefully. Naruto-sensei, what are we going to do? Sakura asked when we arrived at the training ground where the test took place yesterday. You, Sakura, will teach chakra control by walking on a tree. And Sasuke will teach one technique of the element of fire. Kakashi, just try to dodge. Explain to Sakura what is required of her, while I go with Sasuke and teach him the technique. I'll check the result in an hour, after which, together with Sasuke, I moved a little further from Haruno and Hatake. And what technique will you teach me today? Asked the Uchiha. I quickly began to make seals, and then said, Fire release, Royal Fire Dragon. At that very moment fire appeared, from which an incredibly large dragon began to form, which had 2 heads. Why 2, and not 1, I myself don't know. This technique was developed by your brother shortly before that night, and then taught to me. This is my gift and gratitude to you for what I said yesterday after I left to join the ANBU guys. I said, slightly raising the corners of my lips. Did you eavesdrop? He asked. And his eyes were filled with delight at the technology and impatience to study it. Hee, I confess, I couldn't resist, I said, wagging my tail. Sasuke just chuckled and looked at me skeptically. No, so what? I needed to know what questions Sakura would ask and what I was preparing for. It's good that you began to respect me as a sensei after yesterday's fight against Kakashi. Never mind. Let's activate your eyes and carefully watch my actions, after which I again made the same seals and, concentrating the required amount of chakra, released it out, transforming it into the elemental chakra of fire. The same dragon appeared, reached the trees, and evaporated. Do you remember? Yes, Naruto Harem, Sasuke said and began to try to recreate the technique. But the first attempts failed, as did the next 5. You must concentrate more chakra at one point, and then release it at once, simultaneously transforming it into the elemental chakra of fire. If you concentrate less chakra than necessary, nothing will come of it. More than necessary, the insides will burn. So you must have a clear idea of how much chakra you need for the technique to work at least somehow. Try again. Create several clones, things will go faster with them, I explained and began to watch his actions. About an hour later, he finally created a small royal dragon. Well, at least he succeeded in something. Besides, it took me an hour, which is good news. You can rest. I'll go and see how Sakura is doing, and at the same time I'll give her the next task. With these words I headed towards Haruno and Kakashi. The girl was already sitting on the branch, apparently having completed the task that I had given. Well, let's look at the result. Well, how? Did you manage? I asked, looking at the pink-haired one. She, silently, stood up and went down the tree trunk. Not bad. Apparently she finished it in less than an hour. Which is not surprising. With her reserves, chakra control is much easier and simpler for her than for those who initially have a lot of chakra. Yes, and she is not deprived of intelligence. Well done, you did a good job. Your next task will be to learn how to walk on water. It will be harder than cutting wood. After all, water is not constant. Kakashi-san, take her to the springs and start training. In 4 days, I'll ask about the result, after which I turned around and went to Sasuke. His rest was over and the Uchiha began trying to reproduce the technique. By the evening, Sasuke's technique was quite passable, but he still had to work on it so that it turned out at least like mine. I'm not talking about Itachi, since he is the creator of this technique, and he does it better. Perhaps, after some time, Sasuke will bring the technique to the level of his brother. After all, Ada created it specifically for the Uchiha clan. Oh well, I think that's enough training for today. Tomorrow, we have to get up early and go to the Hokage for a new mission. I wonder how long their patience will last. Still, the missions will be very easy. On the way home, we went to the store and bought some groceries. A mouse hanged itself in the refrigerator, and yesterday's food was gone. An hour and a half later we were already in our house. I immediately went to the shower, and Sasuke went to the kitchen to lay out the bags. An hour later, I left the bath and, going down, told the Uchiha to also go to the shower, while I prepare something. This something became rice and curry, so that when he came out of the bath, everything was already ready and standing on the table. And he was in the bathroom longer than me. I wonder what he was doing there for so long. Okay, where is he going? Having had a quick dinner, we sat in the hall, minding our own business, and then went to our rooms. Having made the bed and changed into night clothes, I lay down on the bed and quickly fell asleep. 2 months passed relatively unnoticed. We carried out 2 or 3 missions a day, and then went to the training ground and trained. Sakura has honed her chakra control and is now training with me. I teach her basic first aid and a little knowledge of herbs. She also began to teach poisons and how to release chakra to make the blows more powerful. Some taijutsu stances also gave her the choice of her weapons, which became stilettos and twin daggers. Now she can easily heal simple cuts, bruises, and abrasions. There is also progress in herbs, but in poisons it is at a primitive level. There is also some success with stilettos, as well as with taijutsu and releasing chakra upon impact, but with daggers the same as with poisons. But she has improved. This is noticeable by the slightly increased volume of chakra. When she masters what I teach her, I'll give her a determinant of the elements of chakra, maybe something useful will come of it. Sasuke trained with Kakashi. At first, he was indignant, but then shut up when I said that I wouldn't teach anything at first, since I needed to prepare Sakura. Still, I can't tear myself into two parts, even though I know how to use clones. Sasuke brought the Royal Dragon technique to Itachi's level and learned several more lightning elemental techniques. So the whole 2 months passed. Missions, training, and my parties and relaxation with the guys from ANBU. Sakura began to treat me better and stopped being jealous, realizing that I was not interested in Sasuke. For me, he is just a student, one might say a brother, a best friend, but nothing more. So our friendly relations with her improved and we became, to some extent, friends. But after 2 months, Sakura's nerves gave way, and she began to resent the tasks that were too easy. She, of course, understood that rank D was for genin, but she wanted to complete a more difficult task to test herself. This is, of course, commendable, but reckless. The Hokage tried to convince her, but nothing worked, so he had to agree. This is how we met Mr. Tazuna, who is a bridge builder in the small village of Valn. Oh, if only we knew then what this mission would entail. By hook or by crook, we tried to dissuade Sakura from this idea. But we didn't know this, so we had no choice but to agree and become Tazuna's bodyguards to the village of waves. Having met our employer and discussed all the details, I looked at each other with Kakashi and nodded to him, giving him the right to set a collection time. Without thinking twice, he said to meet in an hour near the main gate of Konoha. On the one hand, the sooner we leave, the faster we will complete the task. But on the other hand, Kakashi will probably be a good 2 hours late again, so it would be possible to set a time for a little later. Of course, I have nothing against it, but I have no desire to wait for him. Kakashi, are you sure that you can come at the appointed time and without delay? I asked, looking doubtfully at my former mentor. Don't worry, I'll be on time, he said, without looking up from reading his little book. I chuckled and headed towards the exit of the office. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed that Sasuke silently followed me, as did Sakura. Oh, I have a feeling this mission is going to be hard. At least Sakura learned my first lesson, otherwise problems may arise along the way. At this hour, Sasuke and I were getting ready for the task. There weren't that many things, but in order not to carry backpacks, I sealed them in special scrolls. And an hour later we appeared near the gate, where the customer and Haruno were already standing, but Kakashi was not visible. We stood there for about 15 minutes when Hatake appeared. This surprised me very much, because usually he is very late, but here. Apparently he is making progress. I hope that he will soon begin to arrive on time. Well, okay, it's time for us to move out. We had been walking for about 2 hours. It was unbearably hot and there was not even a hint of a breeze. Kakashi said something about countries and their political structures, which was not interesting to me. I already knew all this, and I often carried out tasks from the daimyo, so I walked and almost slept on the go. This would have continued for a very long time if Sakura had not asked me a question. Naruto-sensei, tell me, where did you get the fox ears and tail? She asked, looking at me with interest and curiosity. Tazuna also became interested in this question, as he squinted at me, examining me carefully. Sakura, it's a long story. And there is no point in telling, you will find out everything yourself. But not now. And be kind enough not to raise this topic again, I answered calmly, to which Haruno pouted and turned away. Then the bushes began to move, making it clear that someone was there. Sakura, without hesitation, threw a kunai there, and a second later a white rabbit jumped out from behind the bushes. Oh, And how many times does she need to explain basic things? Wait a minute. White rabbit. But they are not in these places. This means that the hunt is on for the bridge builder. And it would be nice if these were ordinary robbers. Sakura, be more careful. Sasuke, this concerns you too, I said, looking at the Uchiha with an eloquent look. He understood everything and immediately tensed, preparing to repel an attack if it arose. Another hour later, I noticed a puddle in the middle of the road, from which I was blazing with chakra. If they want to take us by surprise, they should have come up with a better disguise. It hasn't rained for a week now, and the weather is sunny, so by definition, there shouldn't be a puddle here. Looking at my students, at the customer and at Kakashi, I concluded that out of everyone, only I, Sasuke and Kakashi were wary. Tazuna is fine, he's an ordinary civilian, but Sakura. She definitely needs to be dealt with as soon as possible. It was not enough for her to suffer more, because of her carelessness. While I was thinking, we passed a puddle and at the same instant 2 shinobi jumped out of it and rushed towards Hatake, thereby cutting him in half. Sasuke, Sakura, protect Tazuna-san, and I'll deal with them, I said, after which the guys stood up, surrounding the bridge builder. 2 shinobi did not wait for me to get ready, and immediately rushed towards me. I took out my katana and charged at the 2 shinobi like lightning. The battle did not last even a minute before they lay dead. I thought they were strong since they were called demon brothers. I thought that I would finally warm up, but here, I said, shaking off the blood from the katana and putting it back in its sheath. Kakashi, let's crawl out of your hiding place already. I turned to Hataka, who was calmly coming out from behind the trees. I could stand on the sidelines and let Sasuke and Sakura fight, Kakashi muttered, looking sideways at the genin. If they were ordinary robbers, I might have stood aside. But not when they are A-rank nukenin. I think that besides these two, there will be someone else similar, if not worse, I said. After being silent for a minute, I continued speaking. Kakashi, take care of the customer. It seems to me that he is not telling something, and the mission was initially underestimated. In the meantime, I'll seal these two, Hatake nodded, heading towards the guys. Well, I went about my business. Taking out a blank scroll just for such occasions, I applied several hieroglyphs, made several seals, and 2 apostates were into the scroll. Having rolled it up and put a safety seal, I tossed it and, having caught it, smiled contentedly. So the extra money arrived. After the scrolls were put away in my pouch, I happily walked towards the talking team. As I got closer, I heard the end of Tazuna's story. He said something about a tycoon who controls everything in their villages, causing the residents to starve and live in poverty, and the bridge that our customer is building will help them survive and establish trade relations with other countries. They don't just live. Now it's clear why the mission's rank was deliberately lowered. He simply didn't have enough money for a higher rank. And this is not surprising, because wait a minute. By the way, this tycoon of yours is not called Gato? I asked, turning to Tazuna. Kakashi and the guys looked at me in surprise, but didn't say anything. Yes, his name is Gato, confirmed the bridge builder. So I was right about this. And this means that more powerful apostates than those who attacked us recently will definitely be waiting for us. So a petty, arrogant little man has settled in your small country and is terrorizing the inhabitants? I asked, to which I received a nod in confirmation. It was high time to deal with him, but I never got around to it. Do you know him, Naruto? Asked Kakashi. I looked at him and after a moment of silence, I said. I don't know him personally. But I had the opportunity to see him a couple of times, on missions while traveling. I should have dealt with him a long time ago, but it still didn't work out. Kakashi looked at me with a strange look, but remained silent. But Sasuke decided to intervene with his remark. You should have hung around bars less, Naruto-hime, this brat grinned. So who pulled his tongue, you ask? Just keep quiet, victim of the duck. Without you, I'll somehow figure out where to hang around, I said, throwing an eloquent glance at the brunette. He immediately shut up, because he knows that arguing with me when I'm in this state is not recommended. Mr. Tazuna, do you understand that we can calmly turn around and return to the village? This is no longer a C-rank mission for Genin, it's a B-rank mission, if not A, Hataki said, looking at the bridge builder. In principle, I don't care whether we continue to complete the task or not. But I still need to deal with this monkey. Fine. You can come back. Then they will kill me. My daughter will mourn my death along with my grandson. They will hate the Konoha shinobi for not saving their father and grandfather, Tazuna began to say, trying to press on our pity, but I interrupted him halfway. Just don't try to awaken our conscience in us. Kakashi, we will continue to carry out the task, and this is not discussed, I said, looking menacingly at Hataki, who tried to be indignant. Sasuke nodded contentedly, confirming my words. Probably, I can't wait to show myself in battle. Sakura pursed her lips, but also agreed. She seemed to understand that the decisions of the mentor and the team captain were not discussed. Still, something stuck in her head. Okay. I hope we don't meet any of the S-rank renegades, Kakashi sighed, turning around and continuing the interrupted path. It's too early to rejoice. Gato, I suppose, hired someone of S rank, I said calmly, to which I heard a doomed sigh. Kakashi, we need to be extremely careful and on guard. If Sasuke can still cope and defend himself, then Sakura is not able to do this. She is still too weak to face such high-ranking renegades. I would like to hope that we won't meet such Nukanins, but knowing Gato and his habits, we won't be able to avoid this, I said quietly as we continued our journey to the land of waves. Sasuke silently walked behind, bringing up the rear of the procession, tensely and at the same time quietly looking around. Sakura walked next to Tazuna and talked to him about something, while she walked relaxed, which was not permissible in this situation. Oh, when this mission is over, I'll have an educational conversation with her. I don't understand how you can be so frivolous. Kakashi and I walked ahead of the procession and talked quietly. All this time I have a bad feeling that something will happen soon. But I stubbornly drove away all these thoughts, but at the same time, remaining on guard. I'm used to trusting my hunches and intuition, they never let me down and helped me out of difficult situations. But now I absolutely don't know what to do. Of course, I can protect my team together with the customer, and Kakashi will help out. But what if things get out of control and someone gets hurt? I mean Sakura, who has knowledge at the academy level, well, chakra control has been slightly improved and primitive knowledge in medicine has increased. If only our enemies were the same as the demon brothers, but we cannot be absolutely sure of this. However, at a halt you need to prepare for a surprise attack. While I was thinking, we had already swam to the other side and now began to arrange a halt, so that later we could set off with renewed vigor. I, having ordered Sasuke to lay out sleeping bags and light a fire, went to set traps, not forgetting to leave a scroll with food and sleeping bags. And I must say I did it on time. Indeed, the next day, when we had already packed up and moved to the bridge builder's village, I received a signal from one of the placed seals. Having warned Sasuke, Sakura, Kakashi, and Tazuna, we silently continued on our way. 10 minutes later I again received a signal that some large object was flying towards us, after which I shouted. Get down! Get down! I shouted, after which I knocked Sakura standing next to me to the ground, and Kakashi grabbed our customer. Sasuke himself fell to the ground as soon as he heard the command from me. At that moment, a large sword flew over our heads and pierced the tree that stood behind us, and a man with short dark hair and dark eyes landed on the protruding hilt. The only clothes he had were baggy striped pants and khaki leggings on his arms and legs. A belt passed through the body, to which, apparently, the blade was attached behind the back. He had a protector tied around his head, not like everyone else, but on the side. In addition, he wore bandages around his neck, which were extended, thereby forming a mask. I took a closer look at the man himself and at the sword that was stuck into the tree trunk. And a minute later I was able to recognize the blade as Kubikuri Bocho, and its owner's name is Momochi Zabuza, demon of the hidden mist. It's bad. I didn't expect that Gato would hire him to eliminate Tazuna. Zabuza is very strong, Sasuke can't handle him, and I'm not even talking about Sakura, since he has no chance. Basically, if I put a barrier around the guys and the bridge builder, and I, together with Kakashi, deal with Momochi, then perhaps we will have a chance to defeat him. No, I'm able to cope with him myself, but there are those here who could get hurt, and Tazuna is under threat, plus I'll have to maintain a barrier so that Sasuke doesn't suddenly decide to help me. Although the signal seals told me that 2 people were moving towards us, which means that Zabuza has an accomplice or assistant. This means the plan will have to be changed. What an unexpected meeting. Did I really get to meet the copy ninja Hatake Kakashi and the phantom fox Uzumaki Naruto? Give me Tazuna and maybe you will stay alive, Momochi said, jumping to the ground and with one hand, with a slight movement, pulled out his sword from the tree. I quickly pulled my katana out of its sheath. After which I began to fold only the seals that I knew. Well, maybe Sasuke knows them too. Summoning technique, Kuriya the fox. After the spoken words, I displayed 3 symbols in the air, challenge, fox and Kuriya. With the last symbol drawn, the air sparkled, and from the sparks a gray fox with 2 tails appeared. Oh, Kuriya. Sorry to interrupt you, but could you tell Sasuke to find Zabuza's accomplice and deal with him? I mentally asked the fox. She nodded in agreement and disappeared, appearing on Sasuke's shoulder. Can you help me? She turned to Kurama. I came up with a small plan, and Kurama will help me bring this plan to life. It depends on what you need help with, answered Ku, to which I briefly outlined the essence of the plan I had drawn up. It consisted of Kurama sneaking out of me and, hiding in the bushes, slowly covering the clearing with chakra, which took away the strength of the enemy, while feeding us. The fox reluctantly agreed, and I, satisfied, turned to Kakashi. Kakashi, I sent Sasuke to look for Zabuza's assistant. And you and I will take on Momochi. Kakashi looked towards the bridge builder, and then turned his gaze to me. What about Sakura and Tazuna-san? He asked, as quietly as I had addressed him before. I will put up a barrier that will protect them, I answered, to which Hatake only nodded. Well, I do not. Tazuna-san is under our protection. We won't give it to you, Kakashi addressed Momochi louder. He grimaced and began waving his kubikuribocho. A conversation ensued between the Nukenin and Hatake, which was joined by Sakura and Sasuke, who apparently pretended to be interested, but in fact was trying to sneak away unnoticed. I didn't listen to the conversation or get involved in it, because I already knew all the information about it. It's unlikely that I would have learned anything new. While the conversation was going on and barbed and sentimental phrases were being exchanged, as well as a short exchange of blows that should have resembled a full-fledged battle, I finished making a series of seals. Then she put the palm of her left hand to the ground, and pointed the palm of her right hand at the frozen Sakura and Tazuna. Sasuke, noticing that I was ready to use the barrier technique, quietly disappeared from my eyes and the eyes of those around me, moving towards Momochi's accomplice. I said the name of the technique without letting go of the handle of the katana, which I had been holding from the moment I began to make the first seals for the barrier technique. Fuinjutsu, elemental barrier. After which a translucent dome formed around Haruno and the bridge builder, which allowed those inside to see what was happening outside, but did not allow those inside the barrier to see. And if they suddenly notice the barrier itself and try to break it, they will receive burns from the fire that appears, lightning bolts, cutting wind, water whips and increased protection of the earth from which spears will stick out. Having finished with the installation, I looked at the fighters, although this cannot be called a battle. While I was fiddling with the barrier, Kakashi managed to get caught in a water trap. And how can you ask, he became a jonin? And also one of the strongest shinobi? It's mind-boggling. Give me the old man, and your teacher will not suffer. And you will be able to leave relatively unscathed, Momochi said, creating one water clone. Have you by any chance forgotten about me? I asked a rhetorical question, which only served to draw the swordsman's attention to me. I was able to defeat the copy man, but it will be much easier to deal with you, this idiot said with a grin. And I see that he is self-confident, since he believes that it will be easier to deal with me. I certainly don't overestimate myself and have a clear idea of my chances against him alone, but I have some slight advantages on my side. Firstly, he does not know all the strength I have acquired during my travels. Secondly, I am much stronger than Kakashi, although I will have less experience, but my skill in certain areas will outweigh my experience. Don't underestimate me. I'm still stronger than Kakashi, and you don't even have a chance against a few ninjutsu master, I said, smiling sweetly and wagging my tail in impatience. Without saying another word, I ran towards Zabuza, holding a katana in my hands. The clone also rushed towards me, raising his sword to strike, but was stopped by my weapon. Momochi's skill in fencing was amazing, especially considering that his sword is very large and massive, and he wields it with one hand. Really impressive. But I was in no way inferior to him. This went on for several minutes. We exchanged blows, trying to hurt each other, but neither me nor Zabuza succeeded. But then I heard a command from Kurama, who managed to quietly get out of me and hide in order to begin fulfilling my request. Naruto, I did what you asked. Go ahead, I grinned and immediately began the second part of the plan. I channeled the element of lightning through the katana and sharply struck several blows at the clone. Since the clone was created from water, it quickly dissipated, plus Kurama took part of his chakra and transferred it to me. So, now it's a small matter. We need to free Kakashi, and for this, we need to make sure that the real swordsman moves away from the water prison. Having hidden the katana, I took out my father's kunai and, scattering them around the perimeter, I took out my fan and began to attack. Moving from one kunai to another, I sent cutting streams of wind at the enemy, which I created with the help of a fan. After 5 minutes of such movements, the chakra in the prison weakened due to the fact that Ku was slowly sucking it out. Zabuza had minor paresis, but I was completely intact. Due to the fact that I was moving too fast, the Nukenin could not follow me, except for the tip of my tail, he could not hit me. When I noticed that the prison had weakened, I sent out a powerful wave of wind, which dispelled the trap and freed Kakashi. Thank you, Naruto, Hatake said, to which I just nodded. Kakashi took my place and began to fight Zabuza again, repeating his movements and copying his techniques. I started making new seals for new equipment. In a minute everything was ready. Zabuza stood where he needed to, namely, in the center of the circle of my kunai, on the shore, not far from the water's edge. Fuinjutsu, Seal of the Thunder God. First stage. Paralysis. After which chains wrapped in lightning went from the kunai towards the Nukenin, which grabbed Momochi. From the discharge of electricity sent, the swordsman was paralyzed, which is why he is no longer able to fight. I was about to kill him, but I was prevented by a needle that got into my neck. A guy in strange shabby clothes and a mask of the Oinen mist landed on a branch of a nearby tree. He was injured, which means that the guy is Zabuza's accomplice. Thanks for catching him. I've been hunting for him for a long time. Now I will take the body and destroy it, said Oinen, throwing the carcass onto his shoulder, and before he could disappear, I said. Well, good luck. Momochi Zabuza's assistant, the guy disappeared, and Sasuke appeared in his place. I looked at him displeased, but remained silent. That guy must be really strong if the Uchiha couldn't deal with him in such a short period of time. I'm sorry, Naruto-hime. He has an improved ice genome, so I will need more time, Sasuke said, averting his gaze. Was he seriously upset that he couldn't fulfill my request? Don't worry about it like that. The main thing is that you managed to beat him up a lot and buy us time to prepare. I couldn't even imagine that this little guy would hire the demon of the hidden mist. Well, okay, we need to cancel all protective techniques and continue on our way. With these words I walked up to the barrier and, placing one hand on the supposed shield, and with the other I made a seal of concentration, I quietly said the words of cancellation and Tazuna and Sakura appeared before our eyes. Ku, you can go back. They disappeared. Thank you for your help, I mentally turned to Kurama, to which I only heard a grunt and a light clap. The fox I summoned earlier disappeared when Sasuke went after Zabuza's accomplice. I also put the fan back in place and was just about to tell us to move out when I heard the sound of a fall. Turning around, I saw Kakashi lying on the ground unconscious. Now you have to tinker with it too. Sasuke, take Kakashi on yourself, I asked the Uchiha, to which I received a nod. Tazuna-san, how long will it take us to get to your house? About an hour, answered the bridge builder. Okay, lead the way, I said and followed Tazuna. I feel that Kakashi will wake up only in 3 days, no less. He overdid it with the Sharingan so much that he used up all his chakra. This means that I will have to train with the team alone. And as soon as Hatake wakes up, he will immediately get hit in the face so that in future he will calculate his strength and not use his Sharingan for so long. Otherwise, it won't take long to die like this. While I was thinking about the whole situation, we had already approached Tazuna's house. We were greeted by a woman with black hair and the same eyes. She smiled welcomingly, which involuntarily made me smile, but it didn't seem to work out for me. Once Sakura and Sasuke shuddered. It looks like I will never be able to learn to smile again. Anyway. Oh. Come into the house, dinner is already ready. And thank you for accompanying my father, the woman said and smiled sweetly. This is our job, Sasuke said, walking into the house. In the kitchen, the table was already set, and behind it sat a boy with black hair and the same eyes, and a Panama hat on his head. We had dinner in silence, and then asked to be shown to the rooms so that we could rest a little. After they found themselves in a room where there were several futons, Sasuke put Kakashi on one of them, and he sat down near the window. Sakura sat down not far from the Uchiha, and I sat opposite him. So it is. Kakashi won't wake up for the next 3 days, so I'll train you. In the intervals between training, you will go to the bridge and protect Tazuna and all the workers, simultaneously helping them in any way you can. We have about 2 weeks before Zabuza and his accomplice show up, I explained the whole situation. Isn't Zabuza dead? Asked Sakura. I didn't hide anything and said it as it is. No, Sakura, he is alive. Moreover, that guy is Zabuza's accomplice. First, the Oinin of the Hidden Mist must eliminate the criminals they are hunting on the spot. Don't take it with you to destroy it. Secondly, when Zabuza first appeared, I asked Sasuke to find the second one. Since 2 people passed through my alarm, I thought that Momochi had an accomplice. Because of this, the Oinin was wounded and battered, since before he appeared in front of us, he fought with Sasuke. And thirdly, where that guy was aiming is an acupuncture point. In this way, you can simulate death by stopping the heart for a few minutes, I explained to Sakura, looking out the window behind the Uchiha. Why do you think that we have 2 weeks, and not, say, 3 days? Haruno asked a question. I was about to answer when I was interrupted. Because I pretty much beat up and wounded that guy, and Naruto Harem pretty much beat up and wounded Zabuza with her techniques. In addition, he must be severely depleted of chakra. In this regard, they will lick their damage for about a week. In addition, Naruto Harem's latest technique paralyzed Momochi, which means adding a couple more days. After Sakura's answer, she fell silent and silence hung in the room. It lasted several minutes. Everyone was lost in their own thoughts. I don't know what Sakura and Sasuke were thinking about, but God knows what was going on in my head. Thoughts were confused, jumping from one to another. I couldn't focus on one thing in particular to understand and make a plan for further action. Although the plan can be held off for now, the main thing is to come up with a method for training these 2 so that they are ready for the second battle. Okay, I'll think of something tomorrow. Because today I'm too tired to think about such little things. Go to bed, it's already late. Tomorrow your training and protection of the workers and Tazuna will begin, I said, taking apart my futon. Sasuke and Sakura, silently, followed my advice and also began to dismantle their sleeping places. The day indeed turned out to be difficult. And tomorrow and the next 2 weeks will be even harder. I think we'll be here for a long time. We need to send a message to the Hokage and warn about our delay. And with these thoughts I fell into a long-awaited sleep. The morning began quite unexpectedly, as it always does. Although this is how you look at it. I'm already used to it, and I've already developed immunity to such awakenings. I can smell it a mile away when Sasuke starts approaching me with ice water, and I wake up a minute before this very water ends up on me. But Sakura was definitely not used to this, so the whole house and most likely the whole street heard Haruno scream and her eloquent expressions. Sasuke apparently responded to her indignation, so he left the room with a sense of accomplishment. Probably only Kakashi was lucky. He lay there unconscious and continues to lie there. I would like that. Such happiness will not threaten you, unless you spend all your and my chakra together, Kurama's voice sounded in my head. No, he should support me, but all he does is tease me. Not a grateful fox. And in general, I really want to wake up at least once, not from icy water, but from the brightly glowing sun that shines its warm rays into my eyes. But, it seems, it's not fate, and Sasuke will continue to wake me up as soon as it's light. Dream. If the Uchiha stops waking you up so early, I'll do it. And here you can no longer hide from me or outwit me. So be content with what you have. No, you heard that, huh? He also reads my thoughts. Well, someday I'll definitely shave this impudent fox bald, and I'll give all the fur to sew a fur coat and a hat, and maybe I'll also make a rug. I need it more than he does. Don't eavesdrop on my thoughts, you flea rug. I really will keep my threat. I said, to which I heard a snort. I'm afraid. You better go and get yourself in order, otherwise you'll be late for breakfast. I just chuckled at this statement, but still followed his advice. Still, a cool shower will wake me up much faster, and I'll be more energetic for the whole day. Half an hour later, I came out of the bath refreshed, completely awake and dressed in my usual clothes. After checking Kakashi and making sure that he had not yet come to his senses and would not come soon, I went down to the first floor and went to the kitchen, where everyone had already gathered, except for Hataki. Tsunami-san was setting the table, Tazuna was reading something, and Sakura was sticking to Sasuke, trying to attract his attention and suggest going somewhere. Sasuke removed Haruno from himself in every possible way, without changing his facial expression. And only the boy sitting on the side looked at me displeasedly and somehow angrily, periodically turning the same look to Sakura and Sasuke. I didn't pay much attention to him, sat down at the table and started breakfast, not forgetting to greet everyone and wish them bon appetit. After some time, when breakfast was finished, I discussed the training plan and guarding the bridge and Tazuna. The rest were minding their own business, and only this boy continued to look at us unkindly. To be honest, I was starting to get annoyed. But she didn't show it at all, continuing to calmly discuss the future schedule with her students. I had to use my will to stop my tail, which was starting to wag nervously from side to side. Go away. You can't handle Gato. You will all die. This boy jumped up from his seat. Well, wow, what loud words he utters. Our conversation was immediately interrupted, and we all looked in his direction. Sakura looked at the boy in bewilderment, not understanding what was happening. Sasuke looked disapprovingly and with a grin. Tsunami is excited and Tazuna is worried. And only I began to feel more and more irritation towards this boy. Although deep in my soul I understood him for some reason, which infuriated me even more. I didn't show it with my face, but my tail began to wag, indicating my dissatisfaction. Only the Uchiha noticed this, but did not react in any way. Why did you decide that we couldn't cope and would die? We are shinobi, and quite strong, you know, I said calmly. Because Gato hired a lot of robbers who can kill you. So go away. The boy continued to scream. I repeat, why can't we cope? Shinobi are much stronger than some robbers, even if there are more of them than us, we can still easily deal with them, I said still calmly, and the boy could not stand it, left the table and ran away from the house. No, well, this doesn't fit into any gates at all. First he screamed, and then he ran away. You will forgive my grandson. Inari lost his adoptive father early. He was very dear to him, and when Gato killed him, the boy simply could not survive it, the bridge builder said with a sad smile. And my irritation evaporated, as if it had never existed. Now everything has fallen into place. And that feeling of understanding for this boy that was somewhere deep in my soul. We need to find him and talk to him so that nothing happens to him and so that he doesn't do anything. Just before this, you need to give the genin a task so that they don't relax. So, I'll go and find the boy, and in the meantime you will go to the clearing and perform a set of exercises, and then increase your concentration and increase the volume of chakra through meditation. Is everything clear to you? I asked, to which I received nods and short answers. Yes, Naruto-hime, Sasuke said, realizing that he would need to show these exercises to Sakura. Yes, sensei, Sakura answered, but it was clear from her face that she was clearly unhappy with this. Well, at least she called me sensei and that makes me happy. You see, her explosive character will become calm and maybe something sensible will come out of her. Oh, dreams, dreams. Leaving the house, I decided to trust my instincts. So I headed towards the forest. 20 minutes later, I went out to the edge of the cliff, where the boy was sitting. I could tell from his shaking shoulders that he was crying. After standing like that for a while, I decided to break the silence and attract his attention. Inari, right? I asked. The boy shuddered and turned in my direction. A minute later, he realized what he had asked, nodded and turned away again. I sighed heavily and, going up to the boy, sat down next to him, looking into the distance. This reminded me of the moment when I stood just like that on the edge of the mountain with the faces of the Hokage and looked into the distance. At that moment I wanted to take a step into the abyss, but Sasuke stopped me and I am very grateful to him for that. Sitting next to Inari, I remembered myself, and the words themselves burst out, turning into sentences that were supposed to encourage him to let him know that he was not alone. You know, Inari, since childhood I was alone, without parents and friends. I felt neither my father's warmth, nor my mother's care, nor the support of my friends. I was lonely, and I was more afraid of this loneliness, no matter what it was. Over time, I got a best friend who would never leave me, then another friend appeared who became my sworn brother, a clan that replaced a whole family and a loved one. I was happier than ever. But at one moment I lost everything, my family, my brother, and the person dear to me. I broke down, locked myself in my own little world and didn't allow anyone to get there. I fenced myself off from everyone. I remember standing on the cliff of a mountain and looking into the distance and realizing that I had no reason to live. I was already ready to take a step forward, a step into the abyss, to go to those who became everything to me. But they stopped me. They said that they were waiting for me, that I could hurt those who remained, those who were worried about me. And at that moment I realized that I was not left alone. I have friends, a student who has become like a brother to me. The one who was always with me remained. And you know, you're not alone either. You have a mother and grandfather who are worried about you. If you continue to behave like this, you will lose them too. Smile, laugh, help in any way you can. Don't make them worry about you, okay? I asked and smiled warmly. This is probably the first time in all my time that I smiled the same way as before. I don't know why, but I wanted to tell him my story, which I wouldn't tell anyone else, because it still hurts. Perhaps this is due to the fact that this boy also lost someone dear to him, or maybe there is something else hidden here. I won't know anyway, unless I figure it out over time. And one more thing. Trust me, trust us. We will definitely free the country from Gato. We are strong and we can handle this. You just need to believe and wait, I said and smiled again. Inari nodded in agreement and also smiled back at me. After sitting like this for a little longer, I took Inari home, and I myself went to the clearing to check on Sasuke and Sakura and show one technique that would be needed in the further battle. Arriving at the clearing, I saw Sasuke and Sakura sitting in a meditation position. And judging by their slightly soiled clothes, they completed the entire set of exercises, which is good news. I hope that Sakura trained hard and did not have her head in the clouds and did not hang on the Uchiha. I see you have already finished your warm-up? I asked, coming closer to them. Sasuke opened his eyes, looked at me, and then nodded. Yes, Naruto Harem. I showed Sakura the exercise complex, after which we started meditating, Sasuke answered, rising from the ground and brushing himself off. Sakura followed his example, after which they both looked at me with an attentive gaze. Fine. Now I will show you one technique from the Fuinjutsu category. It does not require a certain skill in this area and does not require that you be from the Uzumaki clan. Any shinobi can perform this technique, I said and looked at my students. Sasuke was calm, but I understood that he wanted to learn the Fuin technique. Whatever it was. But Sakura immediately lit up with this news, which was visible on her face. And this is a good sign. This means she strives to become stronger so as not to be a burden to the team. Although here, most likely, the fact that she wants to show Sasuke what she is capable of, so that he will recognize and love her, plays a role. Well, I won't open her eyes. She herself will understand that nothing will happen to her, over time, but she will understand. What is this technique, Naruto-sensei? Sakura asked with burning eyes. I sighed and began to explain the principle. This Fuin seal, which when activated, causes a small wind that can disperse the fog. This will help you in the battle with Zabuza. Neither I nor Kakashi will have time until then, since we will be busy with Momochi himself. But you will get Tazuna's protection and Zabuza's partner. Therefore, first of all, you will disperse the fog by giving yourself visibility. This seal will also prevent the creation of fog again, instantly dispersing it, I explained, and then fell silent. It's probably worth finding out Sakura's elements and teaching her a couple of elemental techniques for protection. Although I didn't want to teach her this before she had mastered the previous training program. But this is not the case now. And any protection will be useful. Sakura, I'll give you sheets to determine the elements and depending on what your element is, I'll teach you a couple of defensive techniques, just in case. Okay, Naruto-sensei, said Haruno. I sighed again and began to demonstrate the Fuin seal technique. 2 weeks passed. During this time, Kakashi woke up and joined the training and security. More precisely, he helped train Sakura and Sasuke, simultaneously sparring with me so as not to lose shape. Sakura determined her element, which turned out to be water. I don't have such an element, so Kakashi began to teach Sakura how to use water and teach her a defensive technique. In addition, Uchiha and Haruno learned the Fuin seal, which is good news. Now you cannot worry about them. Sasuke, under my guidance, honed those techniques that he was not good at and learned new ones, the most useful in our situation. The brunette also learned a couple more Fuin seals such as paralysis and immobilization, as well as chakra blocking. Sasuke will fight with that Oinen and these seals will be useful to him, but Sakura will protect Tazuna, and if something happens she should be able to protect him. During breaks between training sessions, we took turns going to the bridge for protection and assistance. Sometimes we all walked together so as not to profile the enemy. Otherwise, Zabuza and his partner came to their senses earlier than I expected. So in the middle of the week and at the end of the week, we went to the bridge together. That's how it is today. It was relatively calm on the bridge, except for the clones that took the form of workers who were scurrying along the bridge under construction. Today we released all the builders, since today, according to my calculations, Zabuza should appear. Tazuna stayed with us to make it more believable. Therefore, it was relatively quiet and calm on the bridge. Somewhere in the middle of the day, fog began to appear, which meant that Zabuza and the Oinen had arrived. The clones scattered, Sasuke and Sakura stood around Tazuna, taking defensive stances, and Kakashi and I stood in front of the customer and the students. I already had a katana in my hands. I would have taken out a fan, but it was inconvenient at the moment. Since the fan created cutting typhoons, I could simply destroy the bridge, and we would have spent even more time in this country. We were already delayed longer than expected. Fortunately, in the first week, I wrote a message to the Hokage about our delay. We did not waste our time on words, they will lead nowhere. Therefore, we immediately entered the battle, pushing Zabuza away from the customer and the genin. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed how Sasuke and Sakura simultaneously attached Fuin's seals, folded hand seals and quietly uttered the words of activation, after which the fog began to dissipate. That Oinen overcame his surprise and attacked Sasuke, who accepted the fight. I stopped being distracted, completely focusing on my opponent. I believe in Sasuke and Sakura, so they can handle it. I took up sword fighting, periodically switching with Kakashi to create the technique. I didn't go into Sannin mode and use summoning. Enough elemental techniques, Fuin and Kenjutsu skills. And Kakashi with his Sharingan ensures. Momochi tried several times to create fog, but nothing worked. The guy's Fuin seal works properly. A couple of times I noticed Sakura using a water elemental defensive technique to protect Tazuna from flying needles and techniques. Sasuke was caught in some kind of ice dome, it seemed like a mirror. But I think that the Uchiha will cope with this, albeit with difficulty, but he will cope. It was not for nothing that I taught him powerful fire and Fuin techniques. Kakashi used a call that caught Zabuza, and I used a seal that stopped the flow of chakra, after which Hatake used the Chidori technique, but a mirror with his partner appeared in front of Momochi, who protected Zabuza, exposing himself to the attack. Oinen died, and Momochi wanted to cut Kakashi together with his partner, who grabbed the copy man's hand. But I managed to put an immobilizing seal on the swordsman. And at that moment Short Gato appeared on the bridge along with his robbers. And this is Momochi Zabuza, demon of the hidden mist? Losing to a bunch of kids, said this dwarf and kicked the boy, while spitting in his face. This made me angry. I can't stand people like this little guy. I was about to join the fight when Zabuza's voice stopped me. Take your seal off me. I want to deal with him myself, he asked. I silently looked at the swordsman, then nodded and removed the immobilizing seal. He can't use his hands, so I threw him my kunai, which he caught with his teeth. After which he rushed towards Gato and the robbers. The short man began to run away and pursue Momochi, simultaneously killing the mercenaries who stood in his way. After some time, Zabuza caught Gato and killed him, while receiving fatal wounds in the back. The remaining robbers were scared away by the arrival of the inhabitants of the country of waves and our numerous clones. Zabuza was taken to his dead partner, with whom he said goodbye and died. And at that moment it started snowing. We buried Zabuza and Haku at the edge of the forest. As it turned out, they were not such bad guys, their lives were too broken, so they became mercenaries. In some ways, I even felt sorry for them. I don't know what would have happened to me if it weren't for Sasuke. That's why I try to live as before, although it doesn't always work out. Although I have become different, having instilled habits that help drown out the pain of loss, but for the sake of Sasuke, Kurama, and friends, I try not to close myself off, but to live on. At least this way. We spent a week trying to regain our strength and complete the construction of the bridge, which the residents decided to name after me. Of course, I denied it as best I could, but I still took it for granted. Several days were spent on the return journey. We moved through the trees, which significantly reduced our time. And when we returned and handed in the mission report, the Hokage convened a meeting of Jounin about the upcoming Chunin exam, which will be held in the village of Konoha. I feel that this exam will spoil our nerves, and I feel that something will happen that will shake the routine of the village. But it all started well. In 2 months, the Chunin exam will be held in our village. Today you all must decide which teams will take the exam. Over to you, dear Jonins, said the third. I, of course, assumed that he would call a Jonin meeting to resolve important issues with the organization of the exam, which Konoha is organizing this year. But I didn't expect it to be decided which teams would take this exam. In addition, if the Jonin mentors of the genin who have just graduated from the academy decide. This is already some kind of lawlessness, if not the insanity of the third. The exam is quite dangerous, especially for green beginners. Especially my team with Kakashi. No, I'm sure about Sasuke. After all, he's been training since childhood and therefore is quite strong for his age, but here's Sakura. After all, she only recently began to study more serious techniques than those studied at the academy. Besides, there are only 2 genin on our team, and a team of 3 is needed to participate. And how will the Hokage supplement the 7th team if we nominate them for the exam? Yuhi Kurenai, jonin of team number 8, consisting of Inuzuka Kiba, Aburame Shino, and Hugo Hinata. I'm nominating the full chunin for the exam, said a black-haired girl with red eyes and a white and black dress. I didn't expect that rookie genin would still be sent to the exam. Sarutobi Asuma, jonin of team number 10 consisting of Yamanaka Ino, Nara Shikamaru, Akimichi Choji. I'm nominating the full chunin for the exam, said Asuma-san. Surely all newcomers will participate? Although Guy's team is a year older, this does not change the fact that they are also considered beginners. Might Guy, jonin of team number 9, consisting of Takahashi Tenten, Rock Lee, and Hugo Neji. I'm nominating a full complement of chunin for the exam. I was right about that after all. Well, what do you tell Kakashi, Naruto? Sarutobi turned to us. I exchanged glances with Kakashi, then turned to the Hokage. I Hataki Kakashi nominate team number 7 for the chunin exam, consisting of Uchiha Sasuke and Haruno Sakura. Kakashi began. Oh, and what do you want me to say? Do you agree with Kakashi's opinion? Or still disagree? Complex issue. On the one hand, I don't want to send 2 genin who just graduated from the academy to take the exam, because they really don't have any experience. And if the situation with Sasuke is a little different, then Sakura will completely disappear and will pull her comrade down. But on the other hand, I want to look at what they were able to achieve in such a short period of time. At least that's what Sakura achieved. And at the same time, I want to know what Sasuke is capable of in battles and difficult situations like the chunin exam. The problem is still the same. But I already need to give my answer. And what did you get into? Newbies this, genins that. You were much younger when you joined the ranks of ANBU, and you weren't even a genin, not to mention the fact that you didn't go to this academy of yours. The guys are not small, they can handle it. And Sasuke, if necessary, will be able to help the pink-haired girl. Yes, and you were able to tighten it up a little. She is not stupid, she will be able to apply the acquired knowledge and skills in the right direction. So there's no point in thinking about it, the fox's voice rang out in my head. He's right, it's sad to realize it. You're right, Kurama. Now the task is different. How exactly is Mr. Hokage going to fill the gap in the team? I asked, mentally turning to the Ninetales. This is truly a problem that needs to be solved. I agree with Kakashi. The team is ready for the chunin exam. But I'm worried about one very important question. I supported Hataki, while from afar I started talking about the lack of members of the 7th team. What kind of question, Naruto? Hiruzen asked, smoking his pipe. I don't even know how to start. Oh, it wasn't. I'll tell you straight out how it is. Hokage-sama, team number 7, is missing 1 genin. To participate in the exam, you need 3 people in a team for at least 2 stages. What will you do? I asked. I wonder how he will get out of this situation, old man. I think that you, Naruto, can fix this problem. What? What is he talking about? Sorry? Hokage-sama, what are you talking about? Do you really want me to become the 3rd member of the team for a while so that they can participate? Haha, that's not true, is it? Tell me I got it all wrong. That's right, Naruto. I want you to become their 3rd comrade during the exam. The 3rd confirmed my thoughts. And why do I need all this? What have I done wrong that I have to endure all this? What? Hokage-sama, don't you care that I look older than all my peers? Yes, I don't even look like a genin. I began to be indignant. No, spare me from such happiness. I don't want to take part in this adventure at all. It would be better if they made me an examiner at some stage. And that would be more useful. This is not discussed, he said abruptly. Well, it's okay, I'll still remind you of this setup and all the good things, you decrepit old man. Once this is all over, you won't be happy. Busy with plans to kill the Hokage, I missed the rest of the conversation. Well, it's okay, Kakashi will tell me everything that happened. The asshole ran away. Now you won't be able to find him, and if you do find him, you won't be able to tear him away from his dubious little book. And what should I do now? I suggest we go and find your team and tell you about the exam. The Scarecrow will probably deign to warn them 2 days before the start of the first stage, said the fox. Just a minute. Scarecrow? Scarecrow? Are you talking about Kakashi, by any chance? I asked interestedly. Well, who else? Kurama replied. And I laughed mentally, trying to hold back so as not to laugh out loud. Interesting nickname. You will need to remember. Ha ha ha, I'll have to use it somehow. And now regarding your proposal. I think you're right. At the same time, I'll prepare them properly for what's coming. Having decided what I would do for these 2 months, I headed in the direction where the team was felt. But, not having walked even a few steps, I heard a voice that I hated. Is this really our little fox? The girl standing in front of me sang. I stopped, looked her up and down and said. And I see that the litter ram wants to show people more and more that she is a girl of easy virtue? I said somehow thoughtfully, not addressing her specifically, but saying this to the villagers, who began to stop and listen to our conversation. These are the curious gossips. Although, at the moment, it works to my advantage. Aren't you crazy for an hour, little fox? There was anger in the voice, and in the eyes one could see undisguised anger. And she wanted to scare me with this? Attacked the wrong one. I? No, what are you doing? I just told the truth. Every time you dress more and more openly, and your makeup becomes more and more vulgar. By this, you mean that you are easily accessible, right? I wouldn't be surprised if a good part of Konoha, and quite a few beyond its borders, have been in your bed. I hate even standing with you, let alone talking to you. So get out of the way, you're disturbing me, I said with coldness and steel in my voice. My eyes looked at her with contempt and irritation. I can't stand people like that. Therefore, at one time I did everything to prevent me from being sent on espionage missions, where I needed to use women's skills so as not to become like her. I was already walking past her when her voice, or rather the phrase spoken by Rem, stopped me. And as soon as Shisui-kun contacted you, I don't understand? Although he most likely realized what you really were, and because of this he decided to die, so as not to see such a monster as you. You know, I feel sorry for you. After all, you will never have anyone. You will remain alone all your life, and people dear to you will continue to die around you. You are a monster, a monster. Nobody needs you. Look at you. You're not a person at all. Tell me, what normal person would want to throw in his lot with someone like you? It would be better if you died, or even better, you were never born. Rem shouted. I stood with my head down and silently listened to everything she said. And I understand that she is right in everything except Shisui. Although I'm not sure here either. After all, he could hide from me that he hates such a monster as me, and does not love me, as he constantly tells me. Rem stirred up the old wounds, which began to bleed again. It hurts and offends me to realize that this creature is right in everything. But I can't show this, neither to her, nor to anyone else. So I just said. Shut up, I said quietly, but I didn't recognize my voice. He was hoarse and cold, expressionless. I stood with my back to Rem, so the poet slowly began to turn my face. Shut up, I said louder, looking at that grinning face. She shuddered as she looked into my eyes. So I can assume that my eyes froze, and my gaze became indifferent, expressionless and bloodthirsty. You don't know anything about me, much less about Shisui. You are a non-entity that I will crush as soon as I wish. You can't do anything on your own, that's why you go to bed with everyone. You yourself haven't yet realized that this has become the meaning of your life and your real income. I don't even understand how you were accepted into the ranks of ANBU with your strength. Ah, I think I understand. You slept with the captains of the ANBU squad, after which you asked him to put in a good word for you with Hokage-sama. How low you have fallen. I have no time to have meaningless conversations with you. Therefore, I will only say one thing. After that I quietly approached Rem from behind and said in her ear, if you come near me, my friends, our company or my team again. If you say something like that towards Shisui again, I will personally tear you to pieces and say that it happened. No one will even say a word to me, because they won't prove that it was me. And you won't be able to tell anyone about this, because I put a special seal on you that is impossible to find and see. And only I can take it off. Do you understand me? This was my first and last warning. And you shouldn't cross my path. After all, as you put it earlier, I am a demon who does not spare anyone. It's not for nothing that they call me Ghost Fox. Only Rem and only she heard this. When I finished, I walked around her and, after taking a few steps, turned my head, saying, I don't repeat it twice. So remember everything I told you. And, looking at her from head to toe, I noticed that she was trembling all over, and her face had turned pale. I chuckled, turned around and left. I felt bad at heart. It was painful and offensive to realize that I was not like everyone else. Why shouldn't I be happy that Shisui wasn't honest with me, that he pretended to love me? And that marriage proposal was probably out of pity for me. I didn't notice how tears were flowing down my cheeks as I came to the very place where several years ago I wanted to commit suicide. I didn't notice how I started crying out loud for the first time in 4 years. But I couldn't keep everything to myself. Rem's words opened a wound in my heart and soul that had not completely closed. Her words created a crack that crawled towards the old ones, and in the end breaking into fragments that cannot be put back together so easily and simply. These are fragments of my hope and faith that were still lurking in the depths of my soul. But now it has all disappeared, ceased to exist, just like me. All that remains of me is the outer S, which is programmed to automatically perform actions. Say the right words, show the right facial expressions and emotions. I'm not me anymore but just a doll without a soul and heart. Therefore, I did not feel how they hugged me and began to stroke my head. I did not hear what they were saying to me, and I also did not hear another voice that spoke to the one who was hugging me to himself. I didn't feel how they picked me up and carried me somewhere. I don't even recognize who these voices belong to. I just silently cry and look with an empty gaze somewhere to the side, and maybe at the sky or even through the person who is carrying me. I can't even hear the voices in my head. After all, nothing is important, just like my life. My only regret is that the people closest to me died because of me. But, I hope that where I go, I will be able to meet them, meet Shisui? And ask him if the feelings he told me when he was alive were true? But that will only happen when I see him. And to be precise, very, very soon. This was my last thought before plunging into pitch darkness. POV of Saxony. I don't understand Naruto Harem at all. Why, one might ask, did we return to this rotten village? Besides, everything here reminds me of her brother, Alex, and Shisui, but she still took it and returned. Well, isn't it stupid? And it would be okay, I also understand, after all, it's easier to get even with the elders when you're right under their noses. Although she began to get drunk less often due to team training and missions, when she has free time, write everything, it's gone. And to some extent I understand her. After all, Konoha is a place of so many memories. I'm still surprised how she's still holding on and hasn't broken down. But I still try to keep her busy with something, to distract her from sad thoughts. Fortunately, such an opportunity arose as a mission outside the village. By the way, about the team. Ours is unusual. One might say that it is the only one of its kind, which consists of 2 genin and 2 jounin mentors. I could understand such a composition if they wanted to make something like a special squad out of us. But in our team there is a big, I would even say, fat minus, namely, the pink-haired girl Haruno Sakura. She is a terribly annoying person who only knows the basics of the academy and has a good mind. And it's all. Zero strength, zero skills, zero powerful techniques. In addition, she constantly screams, whines, tries to teach Naruto Harem, and also pesters me, trying to show off herself in all her glory so that I will pay attention to her. She imposes her opinion and imposes herself, and she doesn't even consider her sensei Naruto Harem at all. And looking at Naruto herself, I can say with confidence that Haruno infuriates her and that she is extremely dissatisfied with her, but again, she endures it, trying to teach her something. At least lately Sakura has become more or less obedient to Naruto Harem, which cannot but rejoice. But still. Now I'm walking around Konoha, thinking about what to buy for dinner so that I would be happy and Naruto Harem wouldn't grumble. Although she will most likely arrive late due to an urgent meeting. I don't know what happened there and what they are discussing, but it's still worth preparing for any situation. Passing by a flower shop, I stopped because I saw a suspiciously large number of people. Of course, I was standing a little far away, but I was able to see Naruto Harem and a girl unknown to me. They are talking about something, and, apparently, they are not friends. They were already finishing their argument, and Naruto was about to leave when I came closer and heard a girl unknown to me throwing mud at Naruto Harem and at the same time dragging in Shisui. I was ready to intervene when Naruto turned around and responded to her interlocutor's attack in an icy voice, and her eyes could freeze anyone. I was unable to take a single step, let alone say. While I stood like an idol, Naruto finished and headed in a direction unknown to me. I silently followed her until she came to the Hokage rock. For some reason I don't like her condition, she's too pale and her eyes are cold and empty. Crystal tears flow down her cheeks, and she looks into nowhere. I can't just stand by and watch Naruto Harem slowly kill himself. So without thinking, I rushed to her, put my arm around her shoulders and pulled her towards me, trying to calm her down. Naruto Harem, come on, come to your senses. I ask you to. I told her, stroking the girl's hair. Then someone came up to me and put his hand on my shoulder, thereby attracting my attention. You're Sasuke-kun, right? A female voice asked me. I turned towards the speaker and saw a girl. She seemed to be a friend of Naruto Harem. Yes, and you? I asked, to which she smiled slightly, answering. You could say that I am Naruto's best friend. My name is Yukiri, the girl introduced herself. I nodded and turned back to Naruto Harem, stroking her hair and pulling her closer to me. What's wrong with Naruto-chan? Yukiri-san asked. I don't know, but she's in this state after talking with one girl. She told her what she shouldn't have said, much less touched Shisui-san, I told her. She immediately frowned, and in her eyes you can see such rage that even I felt uneasy. Ram. What a brat, I'll give her such a thrashing. It won't seem like much. Well, that girl's name is Remington. I need to meet her sometime to express everything I think about her. And I don't care that she's several years older than me, that won't save her from my Sharingan, whether she's a thrice Jounin or an ANBU. We need to take Naruto-chan to the hospital. That I don't like the way she looks, I silently nodded. Stood up and took Naruto Harem in my arms. We walked towards the hospital in complete silence. Naruto looked like a doll, with empty eyes. When we approached the hospital, Naruto lost consciousness. This scared us a lot, so we sped up. At the reception, we explained everything, and the nurse ordered to take her to the ward, which we actually did. And a couple of minutes later a doctor came and examined Naruto Harem. But I didn't like his frowning face. I can't say for sure what happened to her. But all the evidence suggests that Naruto Uzumaki fell into a coma from a nervous breakdown. I don't know what prompted this. Most likely, she drove herself into such a state, and when she will wake up and wake up at all is also unknown. All we have to do is connect her to life support machines and check her condition from time to time, the doctor said. I can't believe Naruto Harem would bring herself to this point. But if you consider the fact that that girl Ram told her then this is not surprising. I looked at Yukiri, her face had turned pale and tears were streaming down her cheeks. Apparently Naruto Harem was very dear to her, since she reacted like that. But you shouldn't think about the bad, you should hope that everything will work out. In the meantime, we need to inform the Hokage, Kakashi-sensei, and Haruno about this. Although something tells me that it's better not to tell Sakura. End POV of Saxony. Having opened my eyes, I immediately closed them, as I was blinded by the bright light. So what happened after I passed out? I decided to slowly open my eyes so that it would not be so blinding. After blinking and finally getting used to the light, I looked around. There was a white space around, which made it unclear where was up, where was down, and where was left and right. So where am I exactly? Oh, it doesn't matter. This is probably a crossroads between the world of the living and the world of the dead. I hope I get to meet my parents, Shisui, Itachi, and Alex soon. It would be great. Here the terrain has changed. Now I was sitting on the green grass, and there were all kinds of flowers around, birds were flying and singing melodies only known to them. I didn't immediately notice that I wasn't alone here. In front of me stood an old man with strange eyes and small growths on his forehead and in equally strange clothes. Who you are? And where am I? I asked, but my voice did not express anything. And what difference does it actually make, what kind of voice I have? It doesn't matter anymore. Why should I express anything if it only causes me trouble? Because of me, people dear to me are dying, I will forever remain lonely and useless to anyone. So why do I need all these emotions that are needed in order to communicate with people? Why feel something if there is no benefit from it? It's better if I become a doll, without a soul and heart, a cold piece of ice, then no one else will suffer. I will give up my happiness so that the other remaining people dear to me are okay. My name is Hagoromo Otsutsuki, better known as Rikudo-sanin, the old man introduced himself. I looked at him skeptically, and then my gaze lingered on his unusual eyes. They are also called the Rinnegan, which is what the god of the shinobi world, Rikudo-sanin, had. Wait a minute, so he's the god of the shinobi world? But what is he doing here? No, not like this. What am I doing here? No, that's not it again. Why did I meet him? He is God, the creator of ninjutsu, and I am a simple kunoichi whose life did not work out. Rikudo-sama? Why are you here? I asked. I was interested, although I didn't show it at all. Naruto Uzumaki, right? He asked, to which I nodded in agreement. This world is a transition. When a person is on the verge of life and death. Now you're in a coma, which means almost the same thing. That's why you're here. Well, I came to talk to you, said Rikudo-sanin. And what do you want to talk about? I asked. I was really interested in this. Still, it's not every day that you meet Rikudo-sanin himself, the god of the shinobi world, who wants to talk to you about something. In fact, we were supposed to meet much later. But circumstances changed, not for the better. Naruto Uzumaki, you are the child of the prophecy. It says that a child will be born who will save the world from hatred or destroy it. You are the one who will save this world. The one that will stop wars and create a world without hatred, where all people will live in peace and harmony. This world is not an illusion, but a real one. You push people towards this, and they will do the rest themselves. But the state you're in. You've driven yourself to the point where you're on the brink of life and death. In this state, you are not able to save anyone and make the prophecy come true, said old man Rikudo. Honestly, I'm shocked. What the is a prophecy? I don't want to save anyone. Nothing can save this world. I just want to die and see the people I love and care about. See your parents and talk to Shirkuan. For 4 years I lived with the thought that he was gone. I can no longer live a day without him. Why should I even live? If he's not around. Even if I really am the child from this prophecy, how can I save the world if I couldn't even save my loved one? I will only plunge everything into chaos, destroy everything and everyone, if only I would be near him. And as I understand, Rikudo-sanin will not allow me to die without fulfilling my destiny, which means I will destroy the world until I leave it, until I meet him. Child, I understand your pain and reluctance to live in a world where there are no loved ones. Therefore, I will resurrect the 3 people most dear to you so that they will support you and not let you fall. I will resurrect one immediately, and the other 2 after a certain time, when necessary. And foreshadowing your question, I'll say this: I will change the Hokage's memory. Everything will be arranged so that they went on a secret mission, and for this they needed to make everyone believe that they died. Therefore, after faking their own death, they went on a mission. I will only change the memory of the Hokage, and you will know the truth. But remember, you should not tell anyone about this except one single person whom you trust as much as yourself and who will never betray you. Only one. And now you must make a choice. Who should I resurrect? I was in shock, which was reflected on my face. Did I really say out loud what I was thinking? Judging by Rikudo-sama's face, it is so. So he can resurrect 3? Please resurrect Shisui now. And Itachi and Alexa when you see fit. I asked the old man. Tears flowed down my cheeks, either from joy and hope to see my beloved, or from despair that this hope could collapse. Okay, child, the old man said and smiled. He tapped his staff on the ground and said something, after which a bright light illuminated me. A minute later, everything returned to normal and I opened my eyes. Now it's time for you to return. Shisui Uchiha will be waiting for you on the rock with the faces of the Hokage. And one more thing, one day you will be able to see your parents when the time comes. Until it comes, live and enjoy life and fulfill the prophecy. Everything is in your hands, Uzumaki Naruto, said Rikudo-sanin and disappeared. After that, the space lit up, and I plunged into darkness again. I woke up in a hospital room. It was already dark outside. Then I heard someone sniffling and muttering. Turning my head, I saw how Sasuke placed his hands on the edge of the bed and rested his head on them, sleeping soundly. I smiled from the corner of my lips and stroked his head. Then I remembered what happened. Without thinking twice, I tore off all the wires and jumped out of bed, thereby waking up Sasuke. Naruto-hime? He asked, looking at me. Without answering anything, ignoring the dizziness and weakness, I jumped out the window and landed on the ground, running to the place where Shisui should be. It was already deep night outside, so there was no one except shinobi who go on a mission and return from it. All shops are closed, except for 24-hour shops and coffee shops. I didn't pay attention to my condition, that it was cool outside. I ran with all my might to quickly see Shisui, alive and so dear. And now, I'm finally on the rock with the faces of the Hokage, leaning on my knees, trying to regain my breath. After standing like that for a couple of minutes, I straightened up and went to the edge of the cliff, where I saw a dark figure. As I get closer, I smile more and more joyfully, and tears flow from my eyes again. And, probably for the first time in 4 years, they were overjoyed. Shirkuan, I said quietly. But he heard and turned to me. There was a smile on his face and his arms were outstretched in different directions. Without thinking twice, I rushed into his arms. And only after I felt that they were pressing me closer to me and that they were stroking my head, I burst into tears. My tail wrapped around our legs and my ears dropped to our hair. Shisui reassured me, said that now everything would be fine, that everything would work out. And I believed. I believed that now I would overcome everything. No, we will overcome. After all, we are together now, and nothing will separate us. When I calmed down, I raised my head and looked at Shisui's face. I smiled happily and openly, like before, like 4 years ago. I love you, Shirkuan. I am glad you came back. I said. I love you too, Naru. And I'm also glad to be alive again and to see you and touch you again, he said and leaned over and kissed me, to which I immediately responded. All my thoughts faded into the background. I didn't care about an anxious Sasuke, or the upcoming Chunin exam, or the prophecy that I had to fulfill. Now the main thing for me is the living Shisui, whom I will never let go of. If I weren't Uzumaki Naruto, who was nicknamed Phantom Fox. We stood on the cliff for some time, watching the sleeping village. I don't remember the last time I was so happy. Although only 4 years had passed, at that moment it seemed to me as if an eternity had passed. We stood in each other's arms, enjoying the resulting silence. But this silence was not burdensome or stressful, as if it should be so. It feels as if we never parted. There were no 4 years of sadness, grief and loneliness, as if Shisui never died at all, but simply went on a long-term mission. But from this realization, I only pressed closer to the guy, trying to be as close to him as possible. I was afraid that he was about to disappear, and this was just my imagination or a sweet dream. Because of all these thoughts, I didn't notice how I began to shiver slightly from the cold and how my jacket fell on my shoulders. "Let's go home, otherwise you'll get completely cold," Shisui said, hugging me by the shoulders, trying to warm me up. I just nodded in agreement, wrapping myself in my jacket and smiling at my thoughts. We walked along the street illuminated by lanterns, talking on various topics, sometimes remembering the past. We also discussed all the nuances with the resurrection of Shisui. Rikudo-sama gave us knowledge of what would be changed in the Hokage's memories so that we could answer his questions correctly, so that we would not say anything unnecessary. My reaction to the news that Shirkuin was alive was also thought out. Here we didn't try to split hairs. I'll just say that I saw the documents on Shisui. And when Itachi and Alex are resurrected, I will say that Shirkuin told me everything. For all the conversations, we didn't even notice how we arrived in the Uchiha quarter and approached the house where Sasuke and I currently live. "Sasuke, I'm home," I shouted, entering the hallway. And then I remembered that Sasuke doesn't know anything about Shisui being alive. Just thinking about it brought a crazy smile of anticipation to my face. The Uchiha stood next to me, looking around, and it was at that moment that Sasuke ran into the hallway. "Where have you been, Naruto-hime?" Uchiha Jr. exclaimed indignantly, dissatisfied and excited, looking at me point blank and not noticing the guest. I was just about to answer something when Shisui beat me to it. "Oh, Sasuke-chan. Long time no see." And I watch as Sasuke slowly turns his head to the side, notices Shisui, how his eyes widen, his mouth opens, his face turns pale, and he says, "Ah. P-prize ghost," and then fainting. Shisui blinks his eyes, and I choke on laughter. "Ha ha ha, oh, I can't, ha ha ha. Shirkuin, thank you for extending my life by several years, ha ha ha." I held my stomach and almost lay on the floor, rolling on it. I was bursting with wild laughter, and I couldn't stop. Then the whole situation reached Shisui, after which he joined me. I don't know how long we laughed like that, but we were interrupted by Sasuke's grunting. "Am I hallucinating, or did I really see a ghost?" asked the younger Uchiha, getting up from the floor. When he stood upright, his eyes caught the figure of Shisui, who stood as if nothing had happened. "No, these are not hallucinations, I definitely see a ghost." The Uchiha turned pale again and was about to faint again, but I stopped him. "Stand. Sasuke, this is not a ghost or a hallucination. Shisui is alive and well, so come to your senses." "I'll tell you everything now," I said, fearing for Sasuke's mental state. "Let's go into the living room, sit down and talk." Receiving a nod from the younger Uchiha, the three of us walked into the living room. Having settled down, who was where, I began to tell what had happened recently. She told me about Rem, about the breakdown, and that I met Rikudo, who told me about the prophecy and my destiny, and to make it easier for me to cope, he would resurrect 3 people dear to me. He could resurrect one right now, and the other 2 when the time came. I asked Shisui to go first, and Itachi and Alexa when necessary. That's why I woke up, jumped out of bed and rushed to the mountain with the faces of the Hokage, where Shisui should have been. She said that Rikudo would change the memories of the Hokage and the 3 elders, making it so that he sent them on secret missions, because of which they had to fake their death. "But why are you telling me this?" Sasuke asked after I finished speaking. Rikudo-sama said that I can only tell the truth to one person, whom I trust as myself. Which will not give in and will not spill the beans. I think that someone is you, Sasuke. For the last 4 years, I haven't had anyone more dear to you, except for Kurama, I said, smiling. It turns out, brother, that Alex-san will also be alive in due time? The Uchiha clarified, to which I nodded in agreement. At my nod, Sasuke's eyes immediately lit up and a happy smile appeared on his face. I understand perfectly how he felt when his brother died. But Sasuke hid everything within himself, constantly supported me, was a support, not caring about his feelings, but I perfectly saw his inner state. I tried to isolate him from everything, caring in return, becoming his older sister, even though we were the same age. Now looking at him, you can clearly see all the emotions that overwhelm him at the moment. Well, I think that now you will give up gambling and going to eateries to drink sake? Sasuke asked with a sweet smile. What are you talking about, Sasuke-chan? Shisui asked, and shivers ran down my spine. Well, this Uchiha is not a clown. Nothing, Shirkuin, nothing. I jabbered, and then, jumping up to the grinning Sasuke, I quietly growled in his ear, Sasuke-kun, I will continue my games and hikes, but rarely, to take a break from hard everyday life. And don't you dare talk about this to Shisui, otherwise training awaits you, in comparison with which the previous ones will seem like a real paradise to you. Sasuke swallowed at the prospects presented and methodically nodded his head. This is another matter, otherwise Shisui will spread information that I don't need here. Smiling, I brushed off invisible specks of dust from Sasuke's shoulders, and then sat down in my seat. Let's go to bed already, otherwise it will be later. In a couple of hours it will begin to get light, and tomorrow, or rather today, we will need to visit the Hokage, I said, getting up again, and defiantly headed to the second floor. Shisui immediately followed me, and Kurama, jumping out of the seal, anointed himself on Sasuke's lap, who began to stroke his fur. Sasuke, aren't you going to bed? I asked, turning around on the last step. No, during the 3 days while you were in the hospital. I was so exhausted that I probably won't be able to sleep for a long time, said the Uchiha, continuing to stroke the fox. Wait. 3 days? I was surprised, and that's an understatement. Did I lie unconscious for 3 days? Yes, after your conversation with Rem, you headed to the mountain with the Hokage. I tried to calm you down, but nothing worked. You were like a doll without a soul. Then Yukiri-san came up and offered to take you to the hospital. On the way you lost consciousness. The doctor shrugged his shoulders and said only that you had fallen into a coma from a nervous breakdown, and how long it would last was not known, and the reason why this happened was also unknown. Either you drove yourself to this state, or something else. You stayed in this state for 3 days, after which you woke up, tore off all the wires, and jumped out the window. To be honest, your actions really scared me. Yukiri-san was also very worried about you, Sasuke explained to me. And all the memories and all my tossing at that moment came to me. I lowered my head, hiding my eyes behind my bangs, and asked in a quiet voice. Shisui-kun, can I talk to you? Since such an opportunity arose, I would like to clarify everything, ask all the accumulated questions and find out how he really feels about me. If everything Rem said turns out to be true, I simply won't survive it. Most likely, I will return to the state that Sasuke spoke about and finally, without getting out of it. And even the return of my brother and Itachi will not help me return. Of course, Shisui said. He apparently sensed something in my request that made him become serious, as if he were on a mission. Then let's go to my room, I said in the same voice, and, without raising my head, headed to the bedroom. We walked silently and for a short time, since the room was not far from the stairs. Walking into the bedroom and sitting on the bed, where Shisui also fit, we were silent for a long time. I didn't dare start a conversation, and I was afraid of being disappointed, so I didn't speak. And Shisui was probably thinking about his own things. So what did you want to talk about, Naruto? He rarely called me by my full name, often shortening it to Naru. And I immediately realized that he was more serious than ever. Sighing heavily, I raised my head and turned to Shisui, looking straight into his eyes, and asked. Shisui, just tell me honestly. Out of pity, you asked me to date you, and then proposed? It's just, I sighed again, collecting my thoughts, and continued, it's just. I'm a demon, a real monster. I have fox ears and a tail, stripes on my cheeks that resemble whiskers, and the 9 tails are sealed inside me. I understand that I will never have anyone for this reason, that I will always be alone. People dear to me die around me as soon as I become very attached to someone and fall in love. And realizing this, I begin to understand that you only began to date me out of pity. If this is true, then tell me about it. I don't want to suffer all my life, knowing that you are unhappy and not happy next to me. I wanted to continue speaking, but they interrupted me, shutting me up with a kiss. The kiss was gentle and weightless, as if Shisui was conveying all his feelings that he was experiencing, instilling in my soul hope and a fleeting belief that all my words spoken earlier, all my thoughts and throwing were lies and untruths, that they were someone inspired by. And after a few minutes he pulled away, put his palms on my cheeks and looking into my eyes, said. And who told you this nonsense? I never considered you a demon, let alone a monster, as you put it, and kurama has nothing to do with it. I told you a million times that your ears and tail are very cute and they suit you, making you special, and the antennae stripes give you charm, making you look even more like a cute and beautiful fox. I think I already said that I fell in love with you from the moment you first came to the ANBU headquarters to meet me. And I started dating not out of pity, but out of love for you. I don't know who put this into your head, but I would never do that. Especially to you. You are special to me, someone I really want to spend my whole life with. No more and no less. So stop thinking about all this nonsense. And the fact that people dear to you are dying around you means it's necessary. This means that someone wants you to toughen up, become stronger spiritually and morally, so that you overcome all difficulties and prevent tragedies that should happen to loved ones. You should know that there will always be those next to you who will always be there, even in your heart, if they are not in this world, Shisui said in a gentle voice, looking straight into my eyes and smiling slightly. In his gaze, I saw all the feelings towards me. There was tenderness, care, excitement, fear of losing and boundless love. Looking into those bottomless black eyes, I understood that he was not lying, that all the words he uttered were the pure truth, that he spoke them from the bottom of his heart. Looking at each other, I didn't notice how tears flowed down my cheeks, which were wiped away by the gentle movement of Shisui's finger. And I kept crying and couldn't stop, as if all the burden had fallen from my soul, bringing relief and peace. Besides, all Uchihas are monogamous. We have only one love and for the rest of our lives. As soon as we see her, we immediately understand that this is the one we need. Only one single girl can save us from our curse. Only true love will not allow us to plunge into the darkness and loneliness that haunts every Uchiha, Shisui said a few minutes later, hugging me to his chest and stroking my head. I sobbed and realized what a fool I was for daring to doubt the sincerity of the Uchiha. I'm sorry, I'm such a fool, I said through quiet sobs and crying. Shisui hugged me harder and harder, patting me on the back and saying various nonsense. Gradually I calmed down and didn't notice how I fell asleep in the guy's arms. I woke up to someone walking over me, and then jumping. I sharply opened my eyes and gasped. Looking at the culprit of such an awakening, I saw a rather grinning fox. Shisui was not in the room, most likely he had already woken up and was now sitting in the kitchen, talking with Sasuke. But this fox couldn't have woken him up like normal, huh? Kurama, your mother. I could wake you up like a human being. I exclaimed indignantly, looking at the satisfied Nine Tails. First of all, don't touch my mother. And, secondly, I'm not a person, so I can't wake you up humanly, Kurama said, and I was already a little frozen by the first statement that I didn't even notice how the fox said to go down to dinner, and how he left the room. Having come to my senses, I quickly put myself in order, went to the shower, washed, got dressed and ran down to the first floor. Rushing into the kitchen, I said, clown-founded. Kurama, do you have a mother? Then I heard something fall, or maybe someone, I still didn't understand. But looking at those present, I was left in a precipitate, and then I completely laughed, because it dawned on me what I had just said. Sasuke said thoughtfully, looking at me with widened eyes, and it looked like his cup of tea, which he was holding in his hand, fell when I flew into the kitchen with a question. Well, you see, I told how I woke up in my indignation at this awakening, which was followed by Kurama's statement. It was then that Sasuke and Shisui stared at the fox in question and surprise. Yes, I don't have a mother. I heard this statement from you, people, so I said it, the fox muttered, and we nodded, somehow embarrassed, and continued to go about our business. Sasuke noticed the spilled tea and the broken mug, and began to clean it up, while cursing all the red-haired people who appeared too unexpectedly with their exclamations. Shisui continued to drink his coffee, and Kurama began to eat his well-done meat. I sat down next to Shirkuan, and after waiting for a plate to be placed in front of me, I began to eat breakfast. Or is it already lunch? Sasuke, can you call Sakura to the 7th training ground by 5 o'clock in the evening? I need to tell you one piece of news, looking up from my food. I looked at the Uchiha with an attentive and expectant gaze. I can, but then you yourself will get this leech off of me, Sasuke said. I just nodded in agreement. Still, knowing the character of this pink-haired girl, I am more than sure that she will stick to him like Velcro and will not come off. Does Sasuke-chan have a girlfriend? Shisui asked. From such a question, I choked and coughed, and Sasuke turned pale and methodically waved his hands as a sign of denial, and even waved his head from side to side. No, no, no. God forbid I have such a girl. I'll hang myself instantly. Sasuke finally answered Shisui's question. Is it that bad? The Uchiha grinned, narrowing his black eyes. I laughed as soon as I imagined a couple like Sasuke and Sakura. Shirkuan, come on, will you come with me to the training ground, after the Hokage, and see everything for yourself? You'll still be laughing for a long time when you figure out the answer to your own question, I suggested, more or less calming down, to which I received a nod of agreement. Having quickly finished breakfast, lunch, I tied 2 low ponytails, took all my things, and we left the house. Sasuke headed to Sakura with a message, while Shisui and I headed to the Hokage. We stayed at the residence for quite a long time, discussing all the nuances and resolving all the issues that arose. Shisui was reinstated, the ANBU were told everything that ordinary people and other shinobi needed to know. They once again discussed everything about the Chunin exam, after which we were released. It was just about 5, so we immediately headed to the training ground, where Sasuke and Sakura were supposed to arrive. While we were walking, we talked on different topics, joked, teased each other, as if the conversation at night had never happened. I felt so calm and light in my soul that I couldn't believe that I could doubt Shirkuan. I'll need to talk to this little girl again later so that she remembers the lesson forever. Otherwise, last time it turned out to be emotional and inappropriate. Although, for some reason I'm sure that Yukiri will talk to her again, and she'll talk in such a way that I won't have to repeat it. Knowing how she takes revenge for her friends, and when she is very angry. I'll have to meet her later and talk, and go shopping. Because my clothes are all old, and some are torn, from the mission. That's how we reached the 7th training ground. Sasuke and Sakura were already present there, who was hanging on the poor Uchiha's arm and squealing something. Noticing me, Haruno unhooked herself from her admirer and began to advance towards me, clearly with an angry tirade about how late I was. You're half an hour late again, she exclaimed, to which she winced and twitched her ear displeasedly. Sakura, stop screaming. By the way, I have very sensitive hearing, I said with a calm expression on my face, rubbing my poor ear. Then she continued, but in a dissatisfied tone. And how many times should I tell you to address me appropriately? I am your sensei and nothing else, do you understand? Once again, address me as you, and a. Training awaits you, after which you won't be able to move, let alone say anything. Do you understand me? I said, looking angrily at this pink-haired hysterical woman. I was happy early. She needs to straighten her brain a little more so that she learns to think, and not just give out memorized information, avoiding what the teacher tells her. She only hears what she wants to hear, which is very bad for a kunoichi. Having received a convulsive nod from her, I calmed down a little. Still, it's not my thing to be the sensei of a teen that is your age, even though I look older than my years. Now that's actually why I called you here. Kakashi will inform you about this a day or two before the start. So I took on this responsibility. 3 days ago, there was a Jonin meeting. There we discussed which teams to nominate for the Chunin exam, which will be held in 2 months, in Konoha. During the meeting, all rookie teams who graduated from the academy this year and last year were nominated. You will also take part in this exam. However, due to the fact that there are only 2 genin on the team, and teams of 3 must participate in the exam, it was decided that I will become your third comrade. I won't help you, you have to cope on your own. I will just be a makeweight so that you go through 2 stages. The third stage is single and personal qualities, and skills are shown there, so a team is not needed. All these 2 months you will train hard so that you don't fail at the first stage. Having explained all the information, I fell silent, waiting for a reaction. Sasuke just smiled, apparently he wants to test his strength, what he is capable of. But Sakura screamed like crazy and jumped up to the Uchiha, hugged his hand and began to squeal something enthusiastically. I winced again and pressed my ears to the top of my head, trying to avoid the unpleasant ringing in my ears. Then I felt someone hug me from behind and kiss me behind my ear. I relaxed and leaned back against Shisui's body. So you were talking about her? The Uchiha asked, looking at this pink-haired stick. Yes. Now you understand why Sasuke so quickly disowned him and turned pale, and I choked and laughed, I said quietly, raising my head to the guy. Only now I noticed that he is a head taller than me. You can't even tell that he died 4 years ago. I don't envy Sasuke, or you, he said, placing his chin on the top of my head, pressing me even closer to him. That's for sure. While we were talking, Sasuke kept trying to unhook Haruno from himself, which he actually couldn't do. Naruto Harem. Shisui-san. Yes, help me, finally. Unable to bear it, Sasuke exclaimed. Sakura immediately turned her gaze to us when she heard an unfamiliar name. When she saw Shisui behind me, her eyes sparkled with an evil light. Oh, I don't like this. We must quickly bring Sakura down from heaven to earth. Sakura, meet me. This is Uchiha Shisui, my fiancé, I said, emphasizing the last word more clearly so that she could understand that he was busy. She immediately sank and looked at me unkindly. Well, it's okay, soon Haruno will understand that Shisui belongs to me, and only me. When she turned her gaze to Sasuke, I somehow sighed in relief, closing my eyes. Well, why did you say that I'm your fiancé, and even highlight it like that? I could just say that we're dating, the Uchiha asked slyly, to which I muttered displeasedly. If I had said that you and I were dating, then this pink-haired clingy would have started hanging on to you, trying to seduce and take you away from me. She seems to have some sort of Uchiha bias. If Itachi were here now, she would start her hunt for him too. We need to straighten her brains out, but quickly, I said, after which I felt how Shisui shuddered after I said that Sakura would hang herself on him, and then I heard some kind of nervous chuckle. No, I don't need such happiness, he said nervously, after which he pulled me even closer to him. Okay, it's late. We need to announce what time the training will start and go home, she said to herself, after which she said louder, Hey, guys. Come tomorrow at 8 o'clock, to the same training ground. Your training for the exam will begin tomorrow. Now go home. Having said this, we waited until Sasuke approached us, after which we turned around and headed home. We didn't walk for long, at least I didn't notice how we approached the house. Opening the door, I said that I was going to take a shower, and dinner was on them, and went straight to the bathroom. After staying there for some time, I came out already dressed in home clothes. Having gone down to the first floor and entering the kitchen, I saw that dinner was not ready yet. This means that I didn't stay in the shower for long, which is strange. Usually I sit there for 2 hours, but here. Go to the bathroom, and I'll finish dinner, I said, approaching the stove, to which the two Uchiha nodded. We have 2 baths. One is on the first floor, the second is on the second, so there were no problems. After some time, I was already setting the table when Sasuke and Shisui came into the kitchen, also in home clothes. After placing the plates of rice and curry and placing the meat in a bowl, I called the fox. Kurama, your dinner is getting cold. After my scream, the Ninetales immediately came running, immediately pouncing on its delicacy. We sat down at the table and began to have dinner, silently, not talking about anything. When the food was finished, we began to drink tea with sweets. Over tea we started talking. Sasuke and I talked about our journey, about training, and also about what happened after we returned after a long absence. We also told about the plan for revenge on Danzo and the elders, while placing an eavesdropping barrier in the kitchen. And you never know. So the rest of the evening passed in conversation. And so as not to oversleep, we went to bed. Sasuke in his, we in ours. Since there are only 2 rooms, Shisui moved in with me. Going into the bedroom, I spread the bed and lay down, immediately moving away. Shisui lay down next to him and pulled him towards him, hugging him. I buried myself in his body, resting my head on his hand. I felt my cheeks burn, along with my ears, and the fox's ears began to twitch, the tail wrapped around our legs, preventing it from freeing itself. Good night, Naru, Shisui said, gradually falling asleep. Gee, good night, Shirkuan, I stuttered. After lying there for some more time, silently listening to the guy's measured breathing, I began to fall asleep, plunging into the kingdom of Morpheus. The next morning we woke up quite early to have time to get cleaned up and have breakfast, and then go to the training ground, where training will take place for the next 2 months. To be honest, I didn't expect myself to wake up so early on my own, without anyone's help. This happened for the first time in my memory. Usually it was either Sasuke or Kurama who woke me up. Although their awakening methods are similar. After lying in bed for a few minutes and looking at the ceiling, I thought about further plans for training the students. I will entrust Sasuke to Shisui, after all, they are from the same clan and both have the Sharingan, but I will have to deal thoroughly with Sakura. And knock all the pink out of her head and open her glasses of naivety to the world, showing that it is not what it seems to her. And this is quite difficult to do, especially if you have about 2 months to do everything. I don't think I can do it, but it's worth a try. Turning my head towards where Shisui should be sleeping, I saw that there was no one there. He must have already gone down to the first floor. Sighing and stretching, I got out of bed and, taking my casual clothes, headed to the bathroom. Having turned on the water and adjusted it to the desired temperature, I stood under the warm streams of water. They always calmed me down in a peculiar way and drove away the remnants of sleep. After standing in the shower for a while, I washed my face, brushed my teeth, washed my hair and body, and then turned off the water. After drying myself off and putting on my usual clothes, and also tying 2 low ponytails, I left the bathroom and went down to the first floor, heading to the kitchen. Entering the room, I noticed that everyone was already sitting at the table and eating their breakfast. Good morning, everyone, I greeted, walking over to the stove and serving up my portion of breakfast, then sitting down next to Shisui. Good, they greeted in unison, looking up from their plates and turning their attention to me. To be honest, I was not in the mood. I have no idea what this is connected with. Either this is because I need to pretend to be a genin, or because I have to endure Sakura for 2 months and train her. Or maybe it's connected to something else and that something remains a mystery to me. Sighing heavily, I began to sluggishly eat my breakfast, pondering the upcoming horror. Something happened? Sasuke asked, apparently heard a sigh and noticed my gloomy expression on my face and listless picking at the plate. Why do you think so? I asked, distracted from the fascinating activity. You're all pale and gloomy. Have you been sick for an hour? Shisui asked, looking at me carefully and excitedly. Why did he suddenly decide that I was unwell? I don't seem to feel any signs of illness. Although this is possible due to fatigue. Still, a lot has come over me lately. No wonder I don't have a face. Don't worry, I'm just tired, I smiled, but apparently this didn't really convince them, judging by their frowns, especially Shisui. Really, everything is fine. I'm really a little tired. I think I'll rest a little today while Sakura trains. By the way, Shirkuan, can you train Sasuke? I said. At the same time, I asked about the Uchiha. As far as I understand, the Hokage will not give any missions to Shisui anytime soon. It seems he said something about a vacation after an important and secret mission. Of course, no question. Will you take care of Haruno? He asked, looking at me with the same worried look. Have to. Maybe during this time I will be able to knock all the pink out of her, I muttered displeasedly in response. Of course, I understand that she is a teenager who is interested in everything girls, boys, and so on. But first of all, she is a kunoichi of Konoha who carries out missions, and on missions it can be dangerous, if not fatal, and all her naivety may come back to haunt her someday. And then let her not say that she was not warned. I don't envy you, Naruto Harem. She will drive anyone to a nervous breakdown with her character, Sasuke said, sipping tea. Yeah. I'll go crazy faster than I can teach her anything, I sighed, getting up from the table. Sasuke, wash the dishes, otherwise I have to go to the training ground. And you can train on clans. Go already, Uchiha Jr. muttered. I smiled, kissed Shisui, and ran to the training ground. Sakura was already there, awaiting our arrival. Apparently, she came earlier than expected in order to have time to be alone with Sasuke. What a disappointment it will be when she finds out that Sasuke won't come. "Oh Sakura," I greeted as I approached her. She looked at me and frowned with displeasure. "Oh," she muttered, and I began to get angry. How many times have I told you how to address me? If you don't understand in a good way, we will act in a bad way. Your task is to run 40 laps around the clearing, then I'll give you another task. Get started, I said, crossing my arms over my chest and frowning at Haruno. Where is Sasuke-kun? The girl asked, ignoring my order. How she infuriates me. We need to somehow persuade Tsunade to return to Konoha and throw Sakura on her. My nerves can no longer stand it. Sasuke will train with Shisui at the clan training ground, I answered, waiting for her to start following the instructions, but Sakura doesn't even think about doing this. She took it, turned around and headed somewhere. Where are you going? I think I gave you a task. I went to Sasuke-kun and will train with him. Maybe he will need my help. Arg, how she infuriates me. How you bothered me. Listen to me here, pink-haired obnoxious girl. You won't go to Sasuke, you're prohibited from entering the Uchiha clan territory, that's the first thing. Secondly, I think I explained to you what your behavior could lead to. You will carry out all my tasks without question, and also obey. After all, I am older than you in rank and I have more experience and many times stronger than you. Your naivety will lead you to your grave, you can put your comrades in danger and fail the mission. Finally, come to your senses, take off your rose-colored glasses, and change your character. I lost my temper. Sakura drove me crazy, I even released my ki a little, but in time, I pulled myself together, otherwise Haruno could lose consciousness, and I don't want that. Why can't I go to Sasuke-kun? She was indignant. Sakura, what did she only hear about the fact that she was forbidden to go to the Uchihas? Did you just hear that? I asked, raising my eyebrow in a questioning gesture. So why am I prohibited from entering the territory of the Uchiha clan? She was indignant again. Honestly, she needs to sign a recruiting contract with someone and send her to them. Maybe something will be learned and changed there. Because you are not an Uchiha, I said deceptively calmly, deciding whether or not to sign her a contract. Why is it possible for you, but not for me? No, it's still worth it. Because I am the fiancé of Uchiha Shisui, therefore the future Uchiha. Such things can be calculated logically. It's called an even better one, according to theory, I said. After a minute of thinking, I said, I want to teach you the summoning technique. Thanks to it, you will be able to summon an animal that will help you during missions. As soon as you complete the necessary seals, you will disappear and appear among those animals to which you are most suitable. You will stay there for 2 months, our time. In the animal world, time moves differently. They will teach you a lot. Just don't forget to tell them to send you back in 2 months to your world. Seeing how Sakura, not listening, began to leave, I added, Sasuke also owns the summoning technique. What stamps are needed? She said, turning to me. Remember, showing the seals and saying that you need to bite your finger until it bleeds, and only after that make the seals, and then touch the ground. Having completed the necessary actions, Sakura disappeared in a cloud of smoke. I sighed heavily and headed home to Sakura, to warn her parents that their daughter would be training with conscript animals for 2 months. Her parents, or to be more precise, her mother, were very indignant until Sakura's father appeared. Now it was clear to me who Haruno's character was like. I returned home irritated and even more tired. Entering the house, I went straight to the living room, where Shisui was sitting and looking through something in the scrolls. Where is Sasuke? I asked, sitting down next to the guy. Shirkuin shuddered and turned to me with an indescribable expression on his face. Don't scare me like that. He was indignant, looking at me with a dissatisfied look. I just smiled at this and promised him not to do that again. And I noted to myself that I would continue to sneak up on him like this. He has such an interesting facial expression. Sasuke is training his Sharingan. Why did you come back so early? Sakura pissed me off. We won't see her for 2 months, I said calmly, and sparkles of fun appeared in my eyes. And what did you do to the poor girl? He asked curiously, looking at me with a sly look. I didn't do anything with her. She simply sent her summoned animals into the world. Maybe she'll learn something there and they'll beat the out of her. She doesn't value me at all, although she saw my strength in the battle with Kakashi-san, I said, looking displeasedly into space. When did you manage to fight him? As far as I remember, Kakashi-san didn't even arrange training with you, the guy said thoughtfully. Well, what should I answer to this? That was when we got the team. In order to be taken seriously, Kakashi-san and I had a training battle, where I came out victorious. I said, and Shisui smiled at this. So you didn't sit idly by, but became stronger? The Uchiha said with a sly smile, looking at me slyly. Certainly. How do you think I will deal with Danzo? I feigned indignation, and then laughed, picking up Shisui's cheerful laughter. Then we talked cheerfully on a variety of topics, making up for 4 years of emptiness. And, probably, we will not soon stop sitting like this and talking, laughing, and fooling around. After all, it's fun, and the emptiness gradually disappears, filling with warmth and new memories. The allotted 2 months passed slowly. Today, Sakura should return from the world of summoned animals from her training. Sasuke has already finished his training, so now he suffers from idleness and doing nothing. There was literally a week left before the start of the first stage, and Kakashi still had not appeared to inform his students about the exam. To be honest, his melancholy irritates me to such an extent that sometimes I want to hit him on the first day so that he can lie in the hospital for another week and think about whether it's even worth treating himself so that he won't get sick in the future. Shisui and I walked every day, had fun, laughed and talked. I even managed to get out of Konoha a couple of times to a village with hot springs. We also met several times with old comrades from ANBU, and together we taught Rem a lesson properly. True, I will talk about this another time. Although I became almost the same as before, I did not change my habits, lifestyle, and character. I remained the same as I was before Shisui returned to life. By the way, he found out about this, gave me a scandal and a headache, then didn't talk to me for several days, and I walked around as quiet as a mouse and begged his forgiveness. He forgave me, but now he goes to all my parties with me and rarely allows me to get drunk to the point of not standing. And I'm generally silent about games. Although he allowed me to play when he found out that I always win, he allowed me to do this very rarely. Sometimes I have the feeling that we are not just dating, not in the status of bride and groom, but have already been married for several years. We have 2 children, and he just found out about his wife's addictions. Even Sasuke and Yukiji have sung together, and as one they tell us about it. And if I awkwardly shrug my shoulders, then Shisui doesn't react in any way, as if this is the case, he only smiles slightly in a sly smile. I'm not against us being married and being thought of like that, but it's still somehow awkward when they tell us this if we're not. The Hokage did not issue any assignments, giving our team a vacation. In addition, there is an exam coming soon, for which the genin must prepare, train and become stronger so as not to disgrace their village. Well, I'm just enjoying my free time with Shirkuan. Now we are all standing at our training ground, where Sakura went into the world to her summoned animals. She's about to appear. I wonder if they managed to change it and make it at least a little stronger. In my thoughts, I didn't notice how a white cloud of smoke appeared, and Sakura appeared from it. Outwardly, she didn't change much, but from her eyes, I realized that she had become more intelligent. She took off her naive rose-colored glasses, and now looks at the world soberly and seriously, realizing that her chosen profession as a kunoichi is very dangerous and could cost her her life. All that remains is to make sure of your judgments. Oh, Sakura. How was your training? What's your call? I said oh and asked questions that interested me. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed Sasuke nervously looking around, looking for ways to quickly escape if Sakura attacked him with a hug. Oh, Naruto-sensei. The training went well and I was able to learn a lot. At least I have enough strength to pass the exam. I have a contract with the slugs. They are good at medical techniques, she said. I was surprised. Not only did Sakura call me as expected, but she also did not ignore my questions by answering them, but she also did not throw herself at the Uchiha's neck. This is change. The slugs must have done a good job on her. It seems that Tsunade Harem has the same call. It will be necessary to definitely fuse Haruno with her. Well done. You're just in time. In 4 days, the first stage for the title of Chunin will take place. Kakashi will give you the forms to fill out about 2 days before the start, as if on the same day, I said, still in a little shock. Oh yes. The village is full of shinobi from other villages. If you run into someone, try not to start a fight. In general, it will be better if you avoid strangers. Okay, Naruto-sensei, Sakura said, and then turned to Sasuke, who turned even paler, although much more so. Oh, Sasuke-kun, Sakura greeted with a smile. Oh, Sakura, the brunette nodded, slightly coming to his senses. I began to wait for further actions, looking with interest and curiosity at Sakura and Sasuke. Shisui stood next to me, hugging me around the waist, and also looked at everything with interest, looking from one to the other. But there was no further action from Sakura, which greatly surprised the 3 of us. Sakura, would you like to go to a cafe or a Chiraka ramen to celebrate your return? I asked, the first to come to my senses. To which Sakura agreed, and we all headed to the ramen shop together. Sakura, would you like to go to a cafe or a Chiraka ramen to celebrate your return? I asked, the first to come to my senses. To which Sakura agreed, and we all headed to the ramen shop together. On the way to the institution, we saw how 2 genin from another village, judging by their protectors, stood opposite children from Konoha who were just studying at the academy. The guy held the boy by the chest and said something to him, and he tried to break free, which was actually unsuccessful. Shisui and I walked rather slowly, warily watching the incident, but Sakura hurried to help the children along with Sasuke. Let the boy go. Sakura exclaimed, looking at a guy in strange clothes, with a painted face and something incomprehensible behind his back, and a girl with blonde hair in a dress and a large fan behind her back. To be honest, they alarmed me, not only with their behavior, but also with their aura. I'll have to keep an eye on them during the exam. It was not enough for them to start something against our village. Go where you were going and don't stop us from teaching the boy a lesson," said the guy, still continuing to hold the child by the breasts. Sasuke could not stand it and, appearing on a branch of a nearby tree, threw a stone at him, which hit the hand that was holding the boy, causing him to release him. The other two immediately ran up to their friend, helped him up and moved behind Sakura. "This boy reminds me of someone, but I can't remember who." "Oh, okay, I'll deal with this later." "You shouldn't start riots in someone else's village," Sasuke said, throwing a second stone in his hand and looking coldly at the strangers. A lifeless and icy voice was heard from the other side of the tree. Chakra that was familiar to me emanated from him. The same chakra comes from Kurama, but from the guy it is much weaker and crazier than the fox. Isn't this a Jinchuriki guy? But if this is so, then what kind of biju is sealed within it? And as luck would have it, Ku stayed at home. Now he would help me and tell me what kind of animal is sitting in the red-haired man. I glanced briefly at Shisui, who frowned deeply at the subject who had appeared.